Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. You're joined by me, Mark, and by Vries as well. We have just finished FP3, the last practice session of the weekend in Budapest here, and of course Lewis Hamilton managed to finish on top and got the quickest time of the session. The only 1:17 to speak of, the two Red Bulls just behind him there. But a very interesting session there, Reese, because I think we've just seen how close the times are, and also very interesting to note what the times are for all of those running different tyres, of course, for this qualifying session later.
Yes, I think it's going to be certainly very, very exciting in qualifying later this afternoon with, of course, having to run hards in qualifying 1, mediums in qualifying 2, and softs in quali 3. Certainly the Red Bulls and the McLarens are looking quite hooked up on a set of mediums. The Ferraris and the Mercedes also looking quite good on the softs. Of course, the Red Bulls also not being too far off on a set of softs, but it's going to be interesting to see what the rest of the grid is going to be able to do.
Indeed, and I was really impressed by the Alfa Romeos actually during that session. I know they've not finished quite high up as they might have been, but they went around quite quickly in some parts of that session. So maybe we'll see them improve in their bottom of the table battle this weekend as well. But otherwise, we're looking at the midfield, and we just see McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, and hopefully Aston Martin all battling it out for that second spot, because I think still come race day Red Bull will be on top, but otherwise it certainly could be very interesting with qualifying later.
Yes, as I said, it's going to be a very exciting session, and I think we're going to see quite a few shakeups in qualifying 1 with people having to go on the hards. I mean, it's not a tyre that suits every team, and we haven't seen any running from the Red Bulls on the set of hards. So I wonder what they're going to be able to do on that set of tires. I mean, we saw the AlphaTauris on hards. They were, I think, around 2 seconds off of everyone else. Mediums certainly seems to be a hit or miss tire with certain teams. Some teams are able to be extremely quick on a set of mediums, being able to rival a set of soft tires, and some people on mediums rarely struggle. So, I mean, every single session is going to be super, super interesting here today.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly going to be very interesting qualifying later. And of course, it's a very different setup for qualifying with Q1 on hard tires, Q2 on mediums, and Q3 on softs. Now, it's going to really completely throw the usual attempts and the usual approach to all of the teams in this session. Are we going to see lots of teams try and use 2 different sets of tires come the first session, the second session, and the third session with regards to new and brand new again tires, or are we going to see them just go with 1 set of tires? And if it's not great, then they've basically done it, because I think you're going to see a first attempt and a second attempt, and that's going to be it. You're not really going to be able to improve on those times, which makes it so crucial that you get it right.
Yes, I mean, you don't want to run into your race sets, otherwise it's going to affect, of course, your race. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It may catch a few teams out, but I think it's going to be very interesting for us.
Indeed, and of course, if you guys are new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe. And you are now, of course, on the qualifying stream, so we're going to build up towards qualifying later today, which starts at 4 o'clock, sorry, 4 o'clock local time on the track.
Please do hit that like button though, because as we've seen, if the more likes we have, the quicker our stream can actually build. So let's try get that like button to 100 before qualifying even starts.
Yeah, indeed. It's exactly what we want. We want to try and get as many people to like the video as possible. So if you guys are currently on the stream, you just joined us from across, we can see a few people in the comments already. Be sure to go and like the stream whilst we are here. But rounding off that qualifying session, I think Mercedes were probably very, very chuffed. Red Bull are right there and thereabouts. Just need to sort out a couple of small things. But I think we're certainly in for an exciting qualifying later.
Yes, I mean, it's hopefully not going to get affected by any weather. I don't think it is. It's looking quite clear out there now in Hungary. So yeah, it should be hopefully good enough to get some clean running in every session. Hopefully we don't get interrupted by red flags like we did in the practice sessions.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're not going to go anywhere. Well, me and Reese are going to go anywhere, but the video's not going to go anywhere. We're going to take you straight across to the F2 sprint timing board. Of course, F2 and F3 are running this weekend, and they've got their sprint races happening today. We had the F3 sprint race earlier today already, and now it is the F2 sprint race coming up at just past 2 o'clock. So we're going to leave you with a little bit of music and just the timings for F2. And otherwise, stick around on the channel. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, as I say, and yeah, have a comment, have a comment or two in the comment section, and let's get a discussion going. But otherwise, from me and Reese, thank you so much for watching on Forever Motorsports. We're going to take you straight across to that now. I'm just going to start the streaming on that one, and hopefully you guys will be taken across there. But yeah, we'll see you later for qualifying, which we're so interested in. And yeah, cheerio. Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports for this, the F1 podcast. You're joined by Reese and myself, Mark, of course. And title of the video, and I think one of the first topics that we will be speaking about today. Of course, we'll get into a whole lot of other things, but we do the show every week. Title, Ferrari are done. I think that's pretty much for the season in terms of whether they can compete anywhere after yesterday's result. I think they're pretty much firmly out of the race. It's going to be very, very difficult for them to get back in.
Yeah, they were beaten by Williams. That is certainly unexpected. At this point in the season, we expected them to have a little bit more pace off the back of last season where they were extremely confident. And I mean, what has happened to Ferrari?
Yeah, I mean, one does have to go and ask the question, what on earth has happened to Ferrari? Because, I mean, surely we were expecting them to do relatively okay this weekend. Because, you know, there was a little bit of chats. They started making some improvements the last few weekends. In Canada and Austria, that made some significant gains. In qualifying, they'd done all right. Granted, the McLaren was way ahead of them, but they'd done all right in qualifying. Good enough to certainly go and fight it out near the top. But then come to the race, and strategy once again falls through the floor. But not only that, their pace was just so slow.
Yeah, I mean, it was a circuit that I expected to play into Ferrari's hands. I thought they were going to be quite competitive and possibly be more competitive than the rest of the grid, excluding the Red Bull. I say Red Bull because it's just Max, really. Yeah, Sergio Perez also not having a great weekend. We'll definitely be talking about him and what is going to happen in that sister Red Bull seat. Still a lot of speculation about Sergio Perez's place in Formula One, or certainly in that Red Bull seat. I mean, though, back to Ferrari, why do you think they are struggling? I mean, I've got a couple thoughts of my own as to why they are struggling. But give me your thoughts, Mark.
I mean, yeah, it's strategy. I think is a big problem for them. They just never seem to get that underway. And I mean, even like yesterday, I think I laughed about it so much whilst we were doing the stream. But I suppose it does sort of sum it up because clearly they're thinking probably way too much with regards to strategy, and they're just not going with a basic option. I mean, Carlos Sainz came onto the radio and said, we're thinking we're going to go switch to Plan B, and he said, well, what's Plan B again? I mean, how many plans do they have that they have to think about? The number, as he forgets just the second idea.
I mean, I think we've seen in the past they've gone to like Plan E and F. So I think, as Carlos Sainz said, I think earlier in this season, he said, stop inventing. And they need to just use more traditional strategies and stop trying to make up places in the strategy and just do the talking on the track. I mean, of course, you can make a bit of a leapfrog in the pits, but sure, make a good call, but don't do stupid things like they did yesterday where they boxed them so early and then just left them high and dry on a set of hards when there was a safety car. I mean, I understand it can give you track position, but you can calculate that, and they could have seen that it wasn't going to work.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very, very, very odd one. I mean, also, I mean, we didn't even really get to talk about Charles Leclerc yesterday and where he finished up.
No, he was just lost.
Yeah, I mean
yeah.
It's a bit of a problem. Other things that, of course, happened yesterday, just very quickly, I suppose we can go on to that. And we'll come back to Ferrari and otherwise. But as Vries was telling me about, it's been doing the media runs and being on the news this past day, I suppose. That is with regards to Cara Delevingne and
yes.
Martin Brundle and their little exchange that they had on the grid beforehand. And I think, as Martin does make reference to when he goes and meets with her. He says, when you're on the grid, you have to be talked to, you have to expect. And I think that's my biggest thing with regards to yesterday, is if you are going to be on the Formula One grid, do your due diligence and learn about the fact that this is what happens in the sport.
I don't think it even goes as far as to be, you're on the grid, be a nice person. No, you're a celebrity in the public eye. You've got cameras all around you who are going to, at some point, ask you a question. Be nice. You're a public figure. And be nice. It doesn't cost you anything to be a nice person.
Exactly, and not just that. I think it's also just stupid. You're going into a sport. You've got to be understanding that for the 20 minutes or so that you are on that grid, is that you are now, as you say, in the public eye. You are actually now representing your brand. which means that
Yes.
if somebody comes up to you, you've got to put on the smile. Even if you don't want to, I know it's horrible if you don't want to get interviewed. I can understand that, not wanting to necessarily be interviewed. But I promise you, nobody watching Formula One is watching for you. So they're probably not going to be that long of an interview. I mean, as one of my mates said and one of our friends said on our group with regards to the instance, says it doesn't really take that much to smile and say, I think Lewis Hamilton will win today. And then he'll carry on and Martin Brundle will move on. You go, oh, who really cares? But nobody thinks about it. Now it's been torn into this massive story with Cara Delevingne ignoring him and then clashing back and Martin Brundle this and savagery and all these stupid things. It's been turned into some big old story just because you couldn't simply say hello and I think
and give your predictions for the race. Go, hello, thank you for coming to me. I'm supporting Lewis Hamilton today. Have a great race. It costs you nothing. Really.
I promise you, Martin Brundle was not going to ask you, what do you make of McLaren's upgrades this weekend? I don't think she was going to get asked
political views. No, she wasn't going to get asked candid questions here. I mean, he doesn't ask terrible things like that. He is a great commentator. Of course, he was a brilliant driver as well, and now has gone into commentary. And it's always been a staple of Formula One to have him on the grid, and he is so well known for that. If you're someone walking into pretty much his workspace, because he's there every race weekend on the grid, you should be prepared.
Well, exactly that. I think, if you're going to go and do the whole high life thing, celebrities love to make themselves known on the F1 grid. It's like the famous place. It's like being seen on the red carpet. It's the same concept when it comes to Formula One. If you're going to go and do it, do your due diligence of 5 minutes of research and understand what to expect when you're going to go onto it. And you need to recognize that face, because ultimately that is the face of the grid when he goes around. Martin Brundle is who everybody knows when you go and look at that grid. So very, very stupid from her, but anyway.
One thing it certainly tells me about Cara Delevingne is that she's never watched Formula One before, because if she had, she would have known that happens before a race, and she would have been prepared and not made a fool of herself.
Exactly that. Anyway, we move on because we don't really talk about celebrities much on this channel. We're talking Formula One, and the only news that we've really got to bring with you, except for one big piece of information, which we will get to, and that's a little bit of not a big secret, but we will get to that. I think it's pretty much just the Grand Prix that's happened, obviously, over the weekend, the British Grand Prix. And, Christian Horner had hailed the Red Bull team, this is on Sky Sports, after equaling the F1 record for most consecutive wins. Don't, of course, forget that. They managed to beat that there. So they've now got a record, 11th in a row. 11 wins in a row for Red Bull.
I mean, absolutely brilliant for them. If they hadn't let the Mercedes win in, I think it was, just trying to think now, in
Brazil, I think, wasn't it?
Brazil, yes, it was Brazil. They would have had 20-something races in a row now. I mean, just so dominant from them. But, I mean, we don't want to see them winning for 11 races in a row. We want to see someone else being able to take that podium position and that top spot on the podium. Certainly a driver that does look quite competitive, hopefully going throughout the rest of the season, is Lando Norris and those McLarens.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I was very impressed from their pace this weekend.
Well, I mean,
extremely impressed, though, by the rookie Oscar Piastri as well.
Exactly. I mean, it's the fact that out of nowhere, McLaren weren't just competing at the top there. I mean, Max Verstappen had to work for that victory. It was not a landslide victory at all for Max Verstappen. He didn't win by, several, as we've seen in the past, 20 plus seconds, and you could take a pit stop before getting there. He only beat Lando Norris, but I think it was still 5 seconds in the end.
I mean, we have to remember there was a safety car, so it's not perfectly indicative, but I mean, still, it's what we want to see. We don't want to see the Red Bulls miles and miles ahead. It's better to see them actually having some competition, especially into the first corner. That was so exciting. We had almost 3 cars abreast. We had 2, though, with Lando and Max. Lando getting the better of Max Verstappen at the start. As I did say, though, before the race, Max is a little bit more tentative on the starts, which we definitely saw Oscar Piastri also almost getting around him. That would have been amazing if we had 2 McLarens in the lead and Max really having to fight his way through them. That would have been incredible. Maybe still to come, though, this season.
I still just can't get over the fact that McLaren, out of literally the beginning of the season, Zach Brown was being talked about as somebody who needs to go, and everybody's been going after the guy and the whole team and saying McLaren are garbage. How could they have created such a bad car? And it was a terrible car. But how have they just managed to just change it like this? And now suddenly, I'm sorry, they were quicker in pace easily than the Ferraris yesterday. They were quicker than the Mercedes. They were quicker than the Aston Martins. They were easily the second quickest team on the grid yesterday. And
Oh, they weren't easily. They, yeah, were firmly
yeah,
the second best team on the grid, possibly getting very, very close to that Red Bull. I mean, in qualifying, it was relatively evenly matched, which I did not think I would be saying with that Red Bull car being so dominant.
and of course, Sergio Perez did not have a great race yesterday, starting in 15th. He did manage to make his way up the grid, of course, like he did in Austria, but not nearly as high as he had managed in Austria. Yet again, a terrible weekend, really, for him, not finishing on the podium yet again. In this season, and as somebody in our comments has asked, or Tsitsida, or I have Chichai, I don't know, I have no idea. 3301, that one, and saying, do you think Charles can potentially move to Red Bull? Now, I think you have your answer. I have my answer. You go with yours first.
Short and sweet, or do you want me to give a long explanation?
Short and sweet, and then a medium explanation.
No, that's the short explanation. Medium explanation is I don't think it's going to happen because they're both number one drivers. They will want to be number one drivers at their team. Max has a number one driver policy kind of written into his contract that he will be the number one driver at any team that he is in. So we don't expect someone as strong as Charles Leclerc to come into that team. Whether Charles will be able to even challenge Red Bull, or challenge Max in his own team, that is highly unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what happens with regards to contracts and things, because we are now finally starting to get into silly season. We've got 2 more Grand Prix before that big break. And that big break, we're already seeing talk, and that's what I was going to get to. Our major topic outside of the fact that Ferrari are just not looking very good at all is the fact that Nyck de Vries, it looks like his Formula One season is over.
Done.
Yeah.
Formula One season, his Formula One career is certainly over. I mean, I'm very disappointed. I am a big Nyck de Vries fan, not ashamed to say it, but so disappointed in him this season. I mean, he had a brilliant standout race last year in that Williams car when he stepped in for Alex Albon in where was it? I wanted to say Imola, but it wasn't. It was in Monza, where he stood in for Alex Albon, who had appendicitis at the time, and he was able to get into the points. I mean, everyone was so impressed with him, which is why the Red Bull team were quick to snap him up from Mercedes, because he is fundamentally a Mercedes driver. He has been for a multitude of years, and he got swept away by the Red Bull team and just has not had a good start, has not been able to find his feet at all in that AlphaTauri team.
No.
And it's been quite disappointing.
And I think, look, I don't think his F1 career is completely over yet. I mean,
I think it is, unfortunately.
But we'll go back to that. But it's certainly his season's done. I mean, so we've got Sky Sports Germany and also Ralf Schumacher giving their opinions on the things. And he's basically said that Ralf Schumacher's claimed that AlphaTauri have already decided to part ways with Nyck de Vries, and that Daniel Ricciardo, of course, reserve driver for the Red Bull teams, will finish the season off with the AlphaTauri team. So de Vries has yet to score a point in F1, and Sky Sports Germany expert Schumacher thinks the Dutchman will be axed before his home race in August, which is the first event after the summer break. That would see his first full season in the sport ended after half of the year, and it's claimed Red Bull reserve Ricciardo would take his spot. Schumacher had this to say, said, "The decision has been made. I'm pretty sure. He did it well, had his highlight in Monza last year, and was in his right place at the right time. It's a shame for him that he probably can't..." Yeah?
I like that he says, I'm sure that he is going to be replaced, I think.
No, he says the decision has been made. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. It's a shame for him that he probably can't drive Zandvoort, I would guess. But also good for Daniel Ricciardo and for the team. AlphaTauri is really bad on the road and could use a little experience. Nothing is fixed, but everything is possible. So it does look like Nyck de Vries. I mean, this is not the only report that's come out about him. It looks like he is gone.
So what I've heard in the rumor mill, at least the Formula One rumor mill, which is always turning and always very, very busy, of course, there's always so much drama surrounding Formula One. What I've heard is that Daniel Ricciardo has a Pirelli test this upcoming week with Red Bull. Based on his performance in that Pirelli test, they're going to make a decision.
I'm sure you probably will see Nyck de Vries drop out, because it's too many races without him doing anything. And we know Daniel Ricciardo's been there and done that. Yeah.
And they're very, very far back in the points for Constructors' Championship at the moment. And every single point is millions of dollars. So they'll be wanting to to get as many points as possible. If that means sacrificing Nyck de Vries for a season, so be it. I think they need to be able to afford to keep developing that car and to keep that team afloat. I mean, there is a lot of rumors also going around that they're going to be wanting to sell that team. So yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna have to wait and see what happens.
it's going to be interesting. Although seeing Daniel Ricciardo back in an F1 seat, I think would be better for Formula One than having Nyck
Oh,
de
for
Vries
sure.
there. Because also, apart from anything else, I know it's not what you should judge sportsmen on. They're there to drive, but unfortunately, Nyck de Vries is struggling with the driving aspect, and he doesn't bring anything else. He's not an interesting personality on the grid. He doesn't chat. He doesn't like to be seen in the media. Nobody really knows who he is or what he does. All they know is that he's been disappointing this season, and at least having Daniel Ricciardo back, even if he doesn't do as better than Nyck de Vries, you've got someone there who's going to help Formula One. He's a good ambassador for Formula One to have back on the grid. So, yeah, it's
I mean, that's very
true
true that you say that, because I mean, if you think about all the drivers down the grid, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, even, they all have a well, I want to say offline persona, but an off-track persona. They still engage with their fans. Nyck de Vries, he doesn't necessarily seem to have that engagement with the fan base of Formula One, and he does get a little bit lost down the back of the grid. And with him underperforming, it's just getting a lot of criticism from the fans at the moment to put a driver in that they actually prefer and want to see in the sport.
I mean, Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo in the same team is certainly going to be very, very interesting. You're going to have one of the most,
there.
I mean, you're going to have one of the most happy and joyful Formula One drivers we've ever had on the grid, next to what is essentially a very, very angry Japanese man in Yuki Tsunoda, who is still so. I thought it would fix the season, but still so immature and just shouts at everybody at any given stage of the day. I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly, as much as we say Nyck de Vries isn't a personality, Yuki's a massive personality and makes up for when Nyck de Vries doesn't have any personality. I mean, Yuki is so animated on the radio, albeit the team doesn't necessarily enjoy it. We enjoy it from our side because it's quite funny to laugh at times. But yeah, we'll have to see whether they will swap him out with Danny Rick. I certainly hope so. As much as I do like Nyck de Vries, he squandered that season a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, now McLaren, of course, did unbelievably well yesterday. It's very unfortunate for Oscar Piastri. Pretty much, I think the only reason why he didn't finish on the podium alongside his teammate Lando Norris and Hamilton finishing ahead of him was due to that safety car, and Piastri just unfortunately getting screwed over a little bit by that because Hamilton managed to time it. Well, he didn't obviously time it necessarily. It just happened perfectly for him to come into the pits and make use of that virtual that then became safety car.
Well, Piastri did drive past the pits. Actually, sorry, no, I
yeah, as I say,
I'm wrong. He pitted previously and then
Piastri unfortunately had it was literally at the pit window, and Piastri dove into the pits, and literally like a lap after that, we then saw the safety car come out, and that was horrible for Piastri. He lost so much time as a result.
I mean, it would have been the rookie's first ever Formula One podium. I mean, to get a podium in your rookie season is pretty unheard of. I mean, it just shows his true talent to be able to put that McLaren up so high and match his teammates in qualifying, as well as being able to stick with him throughout the race. He drove so well yesterday, and I certainly believed he deserved that podium spot, but still very happy for the British fans to have gotten Lewis Hamilton on the podium.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Lewis Hamilton's not going to be complaining. He managed to get onto the podium. No. But yeah, as somebody's gone and asked in the comments, and we did have our say about this in the stream yesterday, the live stream, of course, when we did the Formula One. But it's asking, why did Lance Stroll not give the position back when he clearly overtook Gasly from the outside? And well, our position on this is very clear, because he wasn't on the outside; he was pushed off the track by Gasly, which is why, you know, that's
interesting that we say that now, because I remember now watching, I think it was Carlos Sainz ever so slightly nudged Gasly, and Gasly just lost it with Sainz after the race in the press area. He walked past him and said, "Don't push me like that, Carlos." Because they went through, I think it was Cops at the time. Yes, it was Cops. And they were wheel by wheel, and ever so slightly nudged wheels. Didn't take either car off the track or affect them at all. But Gasly was not impressed at all. Very hypocritical of him after pushing Stroll wide.
Yeah, I mean, he pushed Stroll off the track essentially because Stroll was alongside him and more than halfway up the car's bed, which
Yes,
means that you
they
got to
were
give
completely
space.
side to side.
You've got to give space to him, and Lance Stroll was waved off. So that's why we saw Gasly and Lance Stroll allowed to stay there because Gasly then, they looked at it, and yes, black and white flags were waved for Lance Stroll because he went off the track ever so slightly, but they knew that they couldn't do anything else. So it was like a sort of mix of the two. And also, karma does come back to Pierre Gasly. Of course, both Alpines did not finish the race. So I think the Formula One spirit said, you know what? Unfortunately, it's exactly how it works.
Yeah, I mean, karma comes back to bite you sometimes in the bum, and it certainly did with Gasly. He wasn't able to get past Carlos Sainz on a set of old hards, but I mean, damage limitations from those Ferraris yesterday, finishing, I think it was 9th and 10th, wasn't it, Mark?
Yeah, they finished so far down the grid, we don't even really care about Ferrari. I mean, it was, yeah, just such a horrid day for the red team. And we thought that they'd finally be able to get back into winning ways, or at least into podium positions and fighting it out near the top. And just not again. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing. I didn't give my reason as to why I think Ferrari are struggling this season. I think it's because they've had a shift of ownership, of course, with the new team boss. It does upset, I think, the entire order of things
But it was
throughout the
even
team
worse
when,
last season.
well, I know that, but I mean, you've changed from Mattia Binotto to Frederick Vasseur, and he's making major changes in Ferrari, not only for the next 2 to 3 years, but for the next 10, 15, 20 years, because he's looking at mechanics to sign in the future. He's looking at up and coming engineers that he wants to sign who may be involved in other teams, but he doesn't care. He's trying to lock them down for the future and try get Ferrari back to their winning ways, which is what everyone really wants. The entire sport actually needs it because Ferrari are the bloodline of Formula One. They have been there since the beginning, and we don't want to see them falling back. We want to see them fighting for championships.
So, I mean, essentially, our question for the stream was: are Ferrari going to be able to compete at any point during the season, or is their season done?
I mean, we don't know. We can always see Ferrari being able to turn things around like McLaren have been able to do. I have an article here, though, just talking about Andrea Stella's opinion as to why they've been able to make that big turnaround. It's because they have gotten a little bit of inspiration from that Red Bull car, but it isn't fundamentally a Red Bull McLaren. It is still their own car, but it shows how teams are able to just take inspiration from another team, like Aston Martin did this season, and be able to jump up the order. Hopefully, Ferrari just ditch this fact that they have to stick with what they have and start thinking outside the box and just getting up the grid. We don't want to see them falling back, which is what they're doing at the moment. If they keep going the way that they are, they're going to be a midfield team,
No, and
which
another
is not what we want.
No, not at all. And another team that I suppose we haven't talked about much, and it's very depressing not to talk about them much because they've gained so many fans, is Aston Martin, of course, who also seem to be really struggling again. These last 3-4 Grand Prix now have been rather poor for the Green Machine. Yes, Alonso did all right yesterday, finished near the top five, and I think where did he? Was it sixth? I think he finished. Or was it fifth position?
Oh,
I think it was just ahead of Perez. I think.
I
But
will let you know in a second.
it's all right.
For you.
If before we started the season we
Seventh.
looked at Aston Martin, yeah, seventh. So if before the season we saw Alonso finishing 7th and Stroll 11th for Aston Martin, we'd say, you know what, that's all right. You know, that's
Yeah.
about where we expect them to be. But from the
We've
beginning
got
of the
bigger
season, when they were getting
expectations
podiums, it's just, what's happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been outdeveloped by other teams. Unfortunately, they're not used to fighting so far up the front of the grid. It's a good learning curve for them, at least this season. Hopefully, they'll be able to compete again next season. Um, I mean, it's showing them where they need to develop, what certain tracks they need to develop their car for, because we are seeing that it is always in Formula One as we go throughout the season. It's a developmental game. Whoever makes the biggest upgrades throughout the season is able to take that championship. Granted, of course, Red Bull are strong from the beginning of the season, but they are still bringing upgrades. They bring a major upgrade to Hungary this weekend. I'll say now. They bring a new floor to this weekend. I mean, gosh, their floor has been so dominant and so far ahead of everyone else on the grid, but they're still upgrading it and developing it. It shows that you cannot sleep in Formula One, otherwise you are just going to get left in the dust.
Yeah, indeed. And I did have a poll running throughout the stream, which I've just ended now, and it was very simply, can Ferrari turn things around? And I had 4 options, and it was actually apparently a good set of options. And the first one was, of course, which did get the most of the votes, but only 32%. So only 30% of people reckon that Ferrari can genuinely turn this around. 25% of people think don't know this team anymore. They just don't know who Ferrari are. Then 28% of you said, maybe, maybe they can turn around.
The maybes.
And then, of course, right at the bottom, nope, they're down and out, which got 14% of the votes. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much sums up Ferrari right now. It's just, it's 30%, 28%, 25% mixed votes across where we think they could finish. And I think that's pretty much Ferrari right now. It's just we don't know, but not looking particularly good.
Yeah, I mean, we can never rule them out. It's still a very long season. We've got a lot of races still ahead of us. We've only done 11 races so far. And yeah, it's still to play for. I mean, it's not, but it is. Max can genuinely finish second at every race from now on and still take the championship.
Yeah, so
there's been a lot of talk on social media and from other Formula One channels and stuff like that, talking about what we should do about a runaway season like we have this year from Max Verstappen and Red Bull. Should we just gift them the championship halfway through the season and say, okay, cool, go home, go play with your cats, Max, go play on your simulator. Everyone else will play for the best of the rest trophy, and we'll put Yuki Tsunoda in your seat.
I mean, you know the hilarious thing is I mean, yes, I like the fun things that people have thrown out there, and I mean, it's a good chuckle. The problem is that most Formula One fans become so obsessed with who wins, and they decide that a Grand Prix is either exciting or boring based on who wins. They don't care about the rest of the grid, and that's the problem. Is that the moment you start thinking like that, don't bother watching, because I mean, it's not even like it was all that different in the past. Yes,
you would have been so disappointed through Hamilton's 7 years of dominance. I mean, you can't just focus on the top. Of course, you're going to focus on the top. It's who's winning the race. But you can also still enjoy the midfield battles, which, I mean, we've had this weekend.
Yeah.
Phenomenal midfield battles.
And not just that, it's the fact that, take away the Drivers' Championship. Red Bull are out of here. We know this. But we still see surprising things that seem to get all of us out of our chairs, like Perez not finishing, not getting into Q2, let alone Q3. And those sort of things still happen. And also, our midfield battle / even the best of the rest battle is seriously competitive this year. Take Red Bull out of the equation. We've got Mercedes, now McLaren probably asking the question. Ferrari and Aston Martin are all there trying to vie for that second position.
You've left out a team.
Who have I left out?
Williams.
Yes, and Williams is right. They're not quite fighting for the best of the rest, but they're certainly, again, that's
nasty to my Williams.
It's a very, very exciting team to watch.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm happy to see that we do have quite a tight midfield, but I still do want, of course, that Red Bull to kind of fall back a little bit. As much as I am a Red Bull supporter, I do support obviously quite a few teams down the grid. But yeah, I want to see just closer racing like we had this weekend. Max only finished 3 seconds ahead of Lando Norris, but that was, of course, due to the safety car. It will be nice to see more drivers fighting it out for that top spot.
Barrett also there agreeing with us pretty much on all those points. So thank you to you in the comments. Thank you to everybody who's been watching the Forever F1 podcast, or the F1 podcast here on Forever Motorsports. We do it every Monday, so be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you guys know about when we go live for Formula One content and otherwise. And thanks again to Bitdefender for sponsoring the channel. Bitdefender, you can see them all around us here. Great package from them. Go check them out in the descriptions of all of our videos as well. And Reese, any final comments before we wrap up today's show?
Yes, well, we haven't spoken about him. You touched on him very, very quickly. Sergio Perez. What do you think is going to happen with him? I mean, Gosh, he has been so far off of the form recently in the most competitive car possibly of all time.
Well, I'm not sure it's necessarily of all time. Those Mercs were
Yes, it
also.
is. No, I mean the Mercedes weren't ever able to take. If Max gets one more consecutive win, it is the most consecutive wins in history.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. It is true. So look, it's going to be very interesting because we talked about earlier in the show Nyck de Vries and the fact that Daniel Ricciardo is likely going to go and take that seat in silly season here. So that means that if you wanted to replace Sergio Perez with Daniel Ricciardo, which would have been a very good replacement, can't happen anymore. Which means they now go to a rookie potentially taking Sergio Perez's place, which is why I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, they've said that they're happy with Sergio Perez and they're going to stick with him, even though he is going through a bit of a tough spot at the moment. They said the same thing, though, about Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly. And look what happened to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's we're approaching silly season, and silly season is definitely, I think, this year going to be quite silly, and we're going to see quite a few changes. Who knows? Maybe we do get a rookie taking up that Red Bull seat, or maybe we see a different changes. Maybe we see somebody just comes back out of nowhere. Maybe one last hurrah from Sebastian Vettel for half a season or something. Who knows what could happen with that Red Bull team? I doubt very much that sort of thing could
My
happen.
fanboy heart could not everyone. But back into a Red Bull, I would just
exactly
be in heaven.
Yeah, so it's certainly going to be something interesting to watch. But that brings us to the end of our Monday F1 podcast, and thank you guys so much for watching and joining me and Reese, myself, Mark, of course, and yeah. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, turn on notifications. Thanks again to Bitdefender for sponsoring the channel. And we'll check you again next week. Of course, there's no Formula 1 this weekend. But we will have it again next week. And it is going to be a good Grand Prix. Thank you so much for joining us, Reese. And everybody else at home. We're going to head on out. Goodbye.
Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. Today's guide on how to watch the 2023 Formula 1 season, which kicks off this weekend. The Bahrain Grand Prix will officially get the season underway, and there is just so much action between now and about November when the season will come to an end. Just races all around the world, more sprints, more races, a busier season than ever, and yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting season to see exactly if Red Bull can continue to sort of assert their dominance, if we're going to see Mercedes coming back, what are we going to see? And the question is, how can you watch all the action throughout the season? Now, the first things first is that we will do videos for every single Grand Prix. We will do videos on how to watch that particular Grand Prix on a free-to-air broadcaster. Which means that as long as you subscribe to the channel and you monitor us, you'll be able to sort of find out how to watch every single race on a free-to-air broadcaster. And so make sure you subscribe to the channel for that. Now, to be able to do that, though, however, there are very different broadcasters from around the world. So what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself a VPN. I recommend using ExpressVPN because we've tried and tested it and it just works. So what you're going to do, link in the description, get ExpressVPN, get yourself that year subscription as well. If you sign up for a year subscription, you'll actually get an extra 3 months for free, which means you'll be able to start watching from this weekend and it'll cover you up to about June next year. You're going to install ExpressVPN and it's going to come up something look like that. And you think if you click on the right-hand side there, you're then going to get these this pop-up, and those are all the locations of all the various places where you can, connect to sort of servers. And what it does, it kind of geolocates your device. So, for example, for Bahrain, there are free-to-air broadcasts in Belgium as well as in Austria. So you connect to those locations and you go to those sites. But if you totally wanted to watch the entire season, my recommendation would be to get F1 TV Pro. Now, it is only available in certain locations, that being the US, the Netherlands, Sweden, I think Spain, Germany. Then you'll need to use ExpressVPN if it's not covered in that region. And again, so what you do is you go on ExpressVPN, you go and select the United States, and then all you do is you turn it on. As soon as this goes green, it means that you are currently connected to a server in the United States. You're then going to go and sign up for F1 TV Pro, which is $45 for the entire year. Alternatively, it is $5 a month, which is really not a lot of money. And you can get so many more things. You can watch onboard footage with individual drivers. You get behind-the-scenes content. It really is the best way to watch Formula One. However, you can only watch it in those regions, and that is where a VPN like ExpressVPN will come in clutch and enable you to really sort of get the most out of F1 TV. Check out the description for a step-by-step guide on exactly how you can do it. Apart from that, we'll see you guys throughout the season.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. I'm joined by Vries, and this is, of course, our weekly F1 podcast, proudly brought to you by Bitdefender as well. And big news, of course, this weekend. Ricciardo, first Grand Prix back in Formula One for AlphaTauri after replacing Nyck de Vries. We did a video on that last week, and he will be coming in this weekend in Hungary for all of us. And we are so excited, aren't we, Vries?
Yes, it's looking like it's going to be quite an exciting race weekend. I mean, though, even off the bat, we're just going to be upfront about it. Red Bull have major upgrades being planned for this race weekend, which could give them another couple tenths, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite scary, you know, the strongest team in the whole field basically saying, oh, by the way, we've made our car better. And quite significantly better as well. So it's going to scare, I think, a lot of people into it. So, I mean, I don't know if the other upgrades and other teams might be able to compete with that. I think, actually, to be fair, it's probably about time Red Bull needed to get that time going, because teams were starting to get a little bit closer to their times. I mean, the likes of, even surprisingly, obviously, not last weekend, but the weekend before that, McLaren getting very close with their times and qualifying and actually sticking with Red Bull relatively well throughout the race. Obviously, Red Bull's still stronger, but it wasn't as clear-cut. And now Red Bull basically saying, all right, well, in that case, we were going to go ahead and just really rapidly go to the top.
I think the circuit may play into McLaren's hands yet again, because, I mean, we saw how they were quite competitive in Silverstone. Of course, that's a mixture of high speed and low speed corners, but Hungary is quite a high downforce circuit, which played into their hands certainly in Austria, which is also a high downforce circuit. So we could see them being, once again, quite competitive here this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a little article here saying Max Verstappen's warning to the F1 grid as he confirms Red Bull's Hungary car upgrades. And he holds a comfortable 99-point lead currently in the title race. I mean, that's just in itself just ridiculous. And Verstappen was just speaking to the media and saying that, of course, Red Bull has announced the upgrade package being brought to this weekend. He says, Hungary presents a completely different track. We will implement some upgrades on the car there, and hopefully they will perform well. And regarding the focus of the upgrades, Verstappen ominously remarked, drag, low speed, medium speed, high speed, DRS effect, tire wear, all of these areas. That's what we're working on. I'm not joking. So it's basically the whole shebang. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows the fact that Max Verstappen and Red Bull are still perfectionists. I mean, they've got Adrian Newey, one of the most talented car designers out there. I mean, he is certainly chasing perfection with his car, and we can see it out on track how it certainly is perfection on wheels. It's completely dominating the rest of the grid, and quite easily, if I might add.
Yeah, so I mean, it's upsetting for some F1 fans. Of course, we've got Red Bull coming up with these extra upgrades for the weekend. Which is certainly going to scare the rest of the pack, certainly the likes of McLaren, Mercedes. I would say Aston Martin and Ferrari, but they've dropped off. So we'll see what happens with them.
We'll see them possibly coming back in the next few races. I certainly hope that they get to grips with their new upgrades. I think Ferrari bought new upgrades to Austria, was it not?
I think so, yeah.
Well. Yeah, and I mean, we haven't seen them necessarily showing that hand just yet, possibly just taking a little bit longer to get to grips with those upgrades. Hopefully, we should see them finding some pace soon.
Yeah, so of course, the bigger news and the title of the show, of course, that of Daniel Ricciardo coming in this week for his first Grand Prix for the season, replacing Nyck de Vries. So I've got an article here from the F1 site, and it says, Daniel Ricciardo says he is raring to go and is ready to have fun after securing a stunning F1 comeback with AlphaTauri as part of the upcoming Hungarian Grand Prix, a move that will break his half-year absence from the sport. And he said this, it's good, it's really good, Ricciardo beamed as the conversation kicked off. I enjoyed this, call it 6 months off. I think it was really good for me, but the more races I started to attend, the more sim I started to do, I was certainly getting the bug back, so to speak. Then jumping into the car a few days ago, I was like, oh yeah, it all felt very normal. It was one of those. It was one of those ones. The very first lap, oh, this is fast. Then within a few, it's okay. I want this to go faster now, so it was really good. Ricardo also added that he stayed ready at all times to ensure that he could fully embrace any opportunity to return to the grid, which he admitted was in the back of my mind given the unpredictable future of F1. And indeed, we are in silly season, and how silly it was indeed that AlphaTauri decided to stick with Nyck de Vries for so long, I suppose, but now replacing him with Daniel Ricciardo. So how's he going to fare this weekend, Vries?
I mean, I think Daniel Ricciardo, of course, still has that passion and that fire burning deep within, that he is still a very competitive racing driver, one of the last of the late breakers. So hopefully we'll get him doing quite well this race weekend. I mean, certainly it's going to be interesting for the Red Bull management to see how he fares against Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki not necessarily having many teammates to set a necessary benchmark for him. So I think the Red Bull management will certainly be looking to see if he is actually competitive against Daniel Ricciardo, or if he has just been taking place and space in that team, and whether he should also possibly be axed, really, because I mean, the sister team is supposed to be bringing drivers up from the junior formulas to get them ready for the main team in Formula One. So yeah, there's a lot of people riding on the shoulders of Danny Rick. I mean, there's also a lot of rumors, of course, about him uh, possibly going to be replacing Sergio Perez if he is able to outperform him at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was just reading here as well. It says Ricardo also knows that should he deliver with AlphaTauri, or at least perform relatively well with the sister team, as you say, there might be a route back to Red Bull in the future, though he is currently focused on the AlphaTauri job, of course. And he says that's why it feels a bit like back when I was working my way up through it in the Red Bull family, he added. That was it. If you get results, we'll keep pushing you. We'll keep pushing you. That's really the mindset. I know the team. It's been tough to get points finish, to get a points finish this year, a top 10. This is AlphaTauri, of course. So to push this car and to try and get it inside the top 10, I think that would get everyone pretty fulfilled and excited. So, I mean, if Daniel Ricciardo manages in his first Grand Prix to come back and finish in the top 10, would you say immediately that that's an outstanding performance?
Well, I mean, if he's able to get into the top 10, certainly that would be an outstanding performance for that AlphaTauri, which has been far off the pace this season. I mean, it's certainly not a copy and paste of the Red Bull car. It's completely different, I think, way underdeveloped as well, for that matter. And we've seen how Yuki Tsunoda and Nyck de Vries have been struggling. So I think it may take a few races for Daniel Rick to have an effect on that team, and hopefully steer them into the correct direction in terms of development of that car as well.
Yeah. So if AlphaTauri can do something with Daniel Ricciardo, Sergio Perez is certainly going to come under pressure with regards to the media, the fans, and everybody else is going to go and say, well, if Danny Rick is performing for them, he's right there. You know, Sergio Perez is not performing for Red Bull. So how crucial is it that Sergio Perez finally does decently in qualifying this weekend and then also finishes the race well?
I think it's a bit of a chess move from the Red Bull management there to kind of go to Sergio. Well, look, we've put Daniel Rick into the AlphaTauri. If you're not able to outperform him at least, then you're in big trouble here. I mean, we don't necessarily know what Daniel Rick's going to be able to do. We'll see what happens here in Hungary, of course. But it's been, as we said earlier, 6 months of him out of an actual race car. He's, of course, done that Pirelli test now this last week, but still, we don't know what he's going to be able to do in that car. We've seen how Nyck de Vries really struggled there, and he's a race winner in Formula E and Formula 2. But we'll just really have to wait and see what happens with Danny this race weekend.
Yeah, and Martin Brundle was actually surprised that Daniel was going to be back, because, I mean, he literally said, I mean, he's really pleased to see him back, but his honest reaction was just, wow, Daniel's going to go and do that, is he? So some people are surprised at his return. A lot of people not really surprised. I think we're of those two that aren't too surprised with his return.
I was slightly surprised because he said he didn't want to come back onto the grid in an uncompetitive car. But I think being out of the car for 6 months, being on the grid for a lot of the races, you really do miss that feeling of being in a car, as well as I think he does sense the opportunity that he could get a drive in the main team if he is able to outperform Sergio.
Yeah, And of course, that's all in the Hungarian Grand Prix, which we will, of course, be streaming here on Forever Motorsports. And speaking of the Hungarian Grand Prix, we've got a little bit of a weather forecast. And again, it's weather right at the beginning of the week. The weather will change most likely. But right now, the weather could be quite interesting for Hungary. So Friday, it's predicted to be the worst day of the weekend, at least if you love the sun. Temperatures are going to be clipping 30 degrees Celsius and will feature throughout the week. And practice one will drops at 1:30 p.m. local time, so it'll start at lunchtime. So it'll be right in the hottest part of the day. And apparently it is going to be a scorcher. Saturday is going to say that we're going to have a bit of a green track because they actually reckon there'll be rain in the evening. So thundery showers could be predicted on Friday evening. That's what it's saying. The second practice session could see some showers and rain. And so they're likely to have a green track for Saturday's qualifying, or at least practice 3. So lots of hot weather mixed with rain is pretty much what's predicted for the weekend. So, I mean, that could definitely throw a bit of a spanner in the works. So also, if it rains each night, which is what's predicted to do, that's going to make sure the track is green every single time they get into a session on each day. So the race would be green. The qualifying would only have practice 3, getting it a bit rubbered up. So,
I mean, it could make the race quite interesting because I think then degradation is going to be huge around here. Because, I mean, when your track is a little bit rubbered up, you pick up a bit of rubber each lap. So you're not necessarily destroying those tires too quickly. But I think with a completely green track, you do just degrade your tires a lot faster. I mean, with the being as well a high downforce track, you are going to eat away at those tires a little bit quicker than a normal higher speed track. But I mean, it's going to hopefully make it quite interesting for us. Speaking of though, interesting for this race weekend, Mark, we have a new qualifying format that is going to be taking place at this Hungarian Grand Prix.
And I was going to go to that next, of course, but it is a very interesting thing. And for those who don't know, they're going to be doing a different set of tires each session. So we're going to start the first qualifying session on hard tires. You can only use the hard compound. Then in the second session, only the medium, and the third session, only the soft tire. Now, the interesting thing here is because it's going to be very, very hot weather, they reckon, and then as well, like slight rain and otherwise influencing this. I mean, some teams are going to really benefit from this, some teams not, because certain tires don't work for all of the cars. I mean, we know Red Bull are going to be chuffed as anything because they are by far and away much faster on the hard tire than the rest of the grid are on their hard tires, whereas only on the soft tire do other teams start to compete a little bit more with those times. So, I mean, surely that benefits Red Bull massively in qualifying 1 and even 2.
Well, yes, I mean, it does look like it's going to be a big advantage for Red Bull in qualifying 1 and 2, as they are, as you said, very strong in the hards as well as strong in the mediums. We don't know though, it could benefit some other teams further down the grid. We haven't necessarily seen that true pace from them on a set of hards. I mean, I don't think we've seen any qualifying laps put on a set of tires other than a set of softs this season. I mean, this qualifying format was set to take place in Imola earlier on this year. We, of course, saw what happened to Imola, some better than others. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I understand why they have brought this format into play here. It's because, I mean, they bring so many sets of tires to a race weekend, and then half of them don't end up being used, which is why they have brought in this rule now that you have to use a set of hards during Q1, mediums in Q2, and then in Q3 are you allowed a set of softs. Yeah.
So no, and I was just going to go and say, because you're going and saying earlier, they've got to use these tires and things like that, and they've never really done, as you said, and I was going to jump in, they've never really done qualifying attempts on a hard tire. So now that in itself, is that going to just like really cause drivers to be a little bit of concern, of course, because the soft tire's got the most grip, medium tire a little bit less, and the hard tire less than that. But of course, the hard tire's made to last a lot longer. Medium tire's set to be, of course, in between the two of them. The soft tire has the most grip around the track usually. So with the hard tire now, I mean, do you think drivers could actually end up like spinning and otherwise coming off the track a little bit, pushing those tires a little bit too much for what they're made for, or do you think that it's actually just going to be just slow laps?
I mean, I think it's going to be a bit slow. These drivers, of course, run so close to the limit every day, and they're able to keep the cars on track. At least the majority of them are. But I don't think it's necessarily going to affect them in terms of that. But of course, the lap times will be a lot slower than your sets of mediums and your softs. Yeah, it's not really going to affect it all that much. Your top teams are still going to be just as fast on the set of hards. It could just create a little bit of a mix up down the midfield, as you could get teams that are a bit stronger on the hards than were expected. But I do think that if your team is fundamentally fast, they're going to be fast on any tire out there.
But the interesting thing now, of course, comes to players park firm, because now these hard tires are going to be used, these medium tires are going to be used, and these soft tires are all going to be used in the qualifying session. So you're going to use at minimum 3 sets of tires, and more likely 6 sets, because in each qualifying session you're going to go out in hards, and you might well go out in a new set of hards again towards the end of it, to try and get a little bit quicker at the end once it's rubbered up a bit more, and then similarly in Q2 and similarly in Q3. So now you're going to go into the actual Grand Prix with almost all of your tires for the allocation of the weekend being used. So no real new tires to speak of coming onto into the race weekend and even in qualifying. So that's going to also affect strategies, surely.
I mean, I think we'll get people saving up tires throughout the weekend. They won't go on as many runs as they necessarily need to throughout practice 1, 2, and 3. I think we could get people maybe running on a set of tires for the majority of the session instead of going on multiple new sets in order to save tires. Of course, they do have less tire sets than in the past in order to save on those costs of transporting them all around the world, of course. But I mean, I think it's a good move for Formula One. It pushes them in a certain direction as to use all of those tires. And as you said, it could make it quite interesting in terms of strategy on the Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, if the tires have been used and you're going on to used hard tires, they're not going to last as long. You maybe those pit stop strategies for a 1 stop suddenly change to a 2 stop. Those 2 stops change to 3 stops and things like that, because the tires don't last as long, and that could really, really affect the race. And I'm all for changes that could potentially make the racing more interesting, and that causes a bit more thinking in all of the teams and strategies to change and different variables. The more variables, the better for me, because of course then you've got more likelihood of things changing. So yeah, that's certainly going to suit some teams more than others. We know Red Bull probably smiling with new upgrades, and they know they're much better on hard tires and medium tires than the rest of the good. Not to say that they're not better than the rest of the good on soft tires as well, but they're at least a little bit closer, most of the good, though Red Bull and those hards especially, I think, are going to be very beneficial in a Q1. Now, a team that could be very much a disappointment yet again, and that is Ferrari. We always talk about Ferrari in terms of being the big disappointment, but Charles Leclerc has come out honestly and has said that he trusts the Ferrari team, and that yes, they do disagree sometimes, but he still trusts the team. And he says, I say to the team what I think, and the team say what they think. This is the way to move forward. I don't think the trust has ever been an issue. We have a very different vision inside the car than what the team has on the pit wall, so these things can happen. So, I mean, yes, I understand that the pit wall has a different idea as to what's happening in the car, but we don't really see such a massive difference in most of the team setups, do we? Red Bull seem to be very much all together with what's happening out on track. Even McLaren seem to be quite happy with what's happening. Aston Martin as well. All of them very happy with the decisions on the wall and in the driver's seat. You know, very much always aligned. Ferrari is the only team that always seems to have the struggle.
Yes, I mean, we often hear on the team radios how the drivers are not happy with the calls being made by the team in terms of strategy, in terms of calling them into pit or not to pit. I mean, we've heard in the past Carlos Sainz saying stop inventing to the team more, because they do at times. They just create absolutely stupid strategic calls that should never be made, that could cost them a race win or cost them a podium. We need to see more consistency from them, more better strategic calls. I mean, they've got a Le Mans 24-hour win. That is so difficult to do and requires so much strategy. Surely you take what you've learned there and implement that into your Formula One team. I mean, yeah, I think we've given them excuses for way too long. It's time for them to really pick up their pieces and just get it right for once.
So that's Ferrari, of course. They just, as you said, they just need to get it right. They need to fix it up. and just be better, essentially. Mercedes, now, they managed to get a podium in the last Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton getting ahead of Oscar Piastri there, who finished in fourth, unfortunately. Lewis Hamilton finished in third. George Russell, not particularly good, and he hasn't been particularly great for a couple of races now. So can Merck try and eye some podiums this weekend, or are they looking good for that, or could they just sort of simmer where they've been?
I mean, the interesting thing is that the A spec car, George Russell, seemed to outperform Lewis. Now with this new B spec, it's swapped. Lewis seems to be finding some good pace out there, while George is really struggling. I mean, George, I think, is maybe hoping they stayed with the A spec car because he felt a lot more competitive. But yeah, I don't know what's really gone on with him because he has shown that he is quite a competitive driver.
Yeah, and Aston Martin have fallen off. It's quite upsetting, and unfortunately, I just don't see them coming back into the fray. But a team that is pretty much taking their spot, though, McLaren. Now, they were fantastic in the last Grand Prix in Silverstone. Do we think that they'll do a similar thing now coming in Hungary? Because you said earlier, and you said, I think this track favors them. Now, do you think they can compete again? Does Lando Norris look at this and say, hey, you know who I'm competing with? It's not Charles Leclerc, it's not Carlos Sainz, it's Max Verstappen. And is that what Lando Norris is thinking in his head now?
Well, I think they'll have a bit of a fight on their hands. I don't necessarily know if they will be able to compete with the Red Bulls with their new upgrades this weekend. Of course, Red Bull haven't brought an upgrade for quite some time, and they are expected to bring some really big upgrades this weekend. We will, of course, let you know as soon as we do know what those upgrades are. But I mean, it's certainly hopeful for us Formula One fans that we have McLaren back in the fight at the front. I mean, we want to see them fighting for race wins. Hopefully, it is going to be the story for this race weekend. It would be very exciting if we do have them in contention for that race win.
Yeah. And do you have any other news for us for this podcast this week? Is there anything else you'd like to chat about as we start to wrap things up?
Well, we had Goodwood over the race weekend. Well, not race weekend, but this past weekend we had Goodwood Festival of Speed, which is a very prestigious event where a lot of auto manufacturers take their newest models of cars. I mean, we had Sebastian Vettel doing a show run in two of his old Formula One cars. He has one of Ayrton Senna's old cars, and he has also an old Williams car that he was running through that race weekend, running on sustainable fuels, which is great to see Sebastian Vettel back out on track in a car yet again. Certainly hope to see him on the Formula One grid very soon. We did see him last week, though, as well, at that Red Bull Pirelli test with Daniel Ricciardo. He was there doing some test laps as well with his cars.
Yeah, I mean, Vettel was seen racing around again over the weekend, as you said, and that was very, very fun to see. Do you think that he will ever come back to Formula One, or do you think he's permanently out?
He has apparently teased that he will be back on the grid very soon, whether that's in the
I'm sure that's
managerial position. I mean, I think he could certainly be brought into the sport as some sort of sustainability position. I don't know whether that would be to make sure that the sport is going in the right direction, or I don't know. It would be very interesting to see him back in the sport. I certainly hope that he finds his way back into the sport very soon.
Yeah. Now we've got 2 weekends until we've got that long break. So we've got 2 weekends for teams to sort things out before they've got a bit of time off before the latter half of the season. And going into these last 2 Grand Prix, I mean, who do you think is going to be our team to watch?
Well, certainly off the back of Silverstone, McLaren are really going to be the ones to watch, whether they can keep that upward growth going from Austria to Silverstone. Hopefully Hungary, they're going to be competitive yet again, and then onto that last race before the summer break, hopefully they will still be quite competitive. Maybe some of the other teams will also be wanting to make some developmental gains. We'll have to wait and see whether they'll be able to fast track some of those upgrades.
Indeed. And yeah, we're going to start wrapping things up here in the F1 podcast. Of course, we do this every Monday, so be sure to come and join us with it and come and have a conversation with us and ask us some questions. We do it live, of course, with me and Reese. And the show is proudly brought to you by Bitdefender currently. And you find it on the channel Forever Sports. So be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment after the video, of course, if you watch it in replay, as to your thoughts. Ask us some questions, and yeah, go and tell your friends about us as well. Maybe we can get a good chat going coming into the future. Of course, we've got Hungary coming this weekend. We will be streaming all of it and coming with a preview on Thursday as well. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and check that out as well. Reese, thank you so much for joining us. From me and Reese, you have been watching Forever Motorsports, brought to you by Bitdefender. And we will see you again very soon for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Thank you so much, guys. Cheerio. Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. You're joined by Reese and myself, Mark, here for the Hungary Grand Prix preview, the Hungaroring, as Reese just tells me now. That's how you actually say it. I always keep saying the Hungaroring, but whatever. We are, of course, in Hungary this weekend, and Red Bull are bringing upgrades this weekend, big upgrades. We've already seen them, and it's mainly to do with the air intake, which has dramatically reduced in size. And for a car that's already so quick, getting more upgrades is just going to really upset the rest of the field. But we're going to go through what we can expect from all the various teams this weekend and our predictions. And otherwise, of course, Daniel Ricciardo is back in an F1 seat this weekend, and he's got a very cool helmet coming into the weekend with some flames all over. And yeah, looking very cool there. Reese, are we looking forward to the Hungary Grand Prix?
Yes, I'm certainly looking forward to it. It's ramping up to be a very exciting race weekend yet again. I mean, if last weekend was a taster, this weekend should certainly be very, very exciting with those McLarens hopefully being in the mix. Red Bull, as you said, have brought some major upgrades this weekend. They are supposedly bringing new side pods. We've already seen some leaked images on Twitter of their new side pod inlets, which seem to be quite a lot smaller than their previous side pod inlets. Quite similar in terms of look to the Mercedes Zero side pod concept, except not on its side. It's like a normal side pod, but it's very similar in terms of depth to that Mercedes side pod. So it's going to be interesting whether they can make that work this weekend. It is going to possibly be the hottest Grand Prix of the season, with Europe having a major heat wave at the moment. And it is just scorching in Hungary at the moment as well. So we'll have to wait and see if that Red Bull engine is going to be able to handle the heat with those slim side pod inlets.
It's an interesting one because, of course, they're bringing upgrades, and they haven't brought upgrades much throughout the season because they're not needed to at all. The car's been fantastic. It's been an excellent car. Now, they're bringing a massive change to the car. It is a huge change to do that. Of course, it affects the cooling. It affects all of that sort of stuff. So, you know, going into a very hot Grand Prix, could this be a risk for Red Bull now? Almost like throwing away a little bit of their season?
Well, I don't think you can say throwing away and season in the same word with Red Bull, because they are just eons ahead of everyone else at this point. I mean, it doesn't really matter all that much to take a big risk, as much as Max Verstappen will, of course, be wanting to win every single Grand Prix this weekend and lead every single lap this season. Yeah, it's not going to happen all the time. Maybe they might take a risk and it might not play out for them, but that could make it that much more exciting for us at home.
Exactly. So the Hungarian Grand Prix, it's been held 38 times in total. This first held way back in 1936. The most wins for all of the drivers in history is Lewis Hamilton with 8 wins here. And the most wins for constructor is not for once Ferrari. It is in fact McLaren with 11 wins at the circuit. And I think that's quite appropriate and apt because McLaren seem to have found their feet a bit. So maybe McLaren can do something this weekend. Indeed.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, foretelling indeed. Circuit length is 4.381 kilometers. The race length is 306 kilometers. And there are 70 laps in total. In the last race, George Russell finished on pole for Mercedes, getting the quickest lap around here last year, and Max Verstappen won the race. Lewis Hamilton came second, and George Russell came third. So it was a great Grand Prix for Mercedes last year, of course, for them who didn't have the best car during their season. So they started to ramp up this season again towards the end. If we remember, Mercedes started to get a lot better towards the latter half of the season last year, and maybe we'll see a similar sort of thing happen again. And last year they did very well. Maybe this year they do just as well again.
Well, I mean, they'll have some good information, at least from last year when they were here, to correlate with their new setups and their new upgrades. So hopefully they will be able to find some time, because they have been not lost in the past few races, but I mean, certainly not contending for the race win, which at least McLaren were able to do last weekend. So possibly we'll be seeing a bit of a three-way fight this race weekend if Mercedes are able to pick up the pieces.
And just very, very important for both Mercedes drivers to not have issues with each other or decide to go into each other, as we have seen from the Mercedes team in the Hungarian Grand Prix previously, of course. Very, very famously, Lewis Hamilton and I think it was Rosberg, did have a big incident here in Hungary between 2014 and 2016. I can't quite remember which
That
one
was in
it was.
Spain. It
Oh,
was in
no,
Spain
wasn't Spain, but I'm
in
reading here.
2016.
I'm reading here.
Maybe they did have a tussle here as well.
I think
Remember
they've had
Max and
tussles here in the meanwhile, but yes, no,
remember
it was.
Max and Daniel Ricciardo tussling into turn 3 a couple years ago, where Max took off Daniel's wing when those two were fighting it out for P1 on the first lap. But I certainly don't remember the Nico Rosberg
just
one.
sorry, yeah.
Definitely did
Sorry.
happen if you're saying it does.
Yeah, well, I'm just reading here, and it's just saying in this article as well. I was just going to try and sorry, I was just cutting across there, but just simply because, we do see this article here in Sky Sports does bring up the fact that lots of incidents seem to have been brought up between not just Lewis Hamilton and Rosberg, but teammates generally in Hungary tend to get a bit feisty and otherwise getting in their way. And a couple of small incidents have happened over the years for multiple teams, including Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari, of course, as well. So, Mercedes...
There was a big crash a few years ago into turn 1. Turn 1 certainly going to be a big watching point for the Grand Prix, because we often have so many big accidents here with that 90-degree corner. It's similar to Spa, which we have coming up soon as well, with that first corner, where we just see a lot of accidents taking place there.
Yeah, and Mercedes, of course, Toto Wolff is now playing down the expectations for this weekend, even though they did very well last year. And he's saying the order is fluctuating almost every weekend. We need to keep adding performance if we are to close the gap to the front and fight for victories. Several teams have made big gains recently, of course, those being McLaren and Mercedes as well. This has brought some into the fight with us, especially McLaren. It has been impressive and gives us encouragement that we can also continue to find gains. Of course, both of them using the same engines. That's why he's saying that's encouraging. And it says, we relish the challenge and will bring our own steps in due course. The Hungaroring is a circuit that is quite different in nature to Silverstone. It will be interesting to explore how our latest upgrades perform in the long radius, slow speed corners. So, Mercedes are diving down expectations a little bit, but I think they're quietly hoping they're going to have a good Grand Prix.
I mean, they've been so hit or miss at the last few Grand Prix. They were quite good, at least out in Silverstone last weekend, or the weekend before, sorry. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see what happens, because I don't think we've really gotten a true reflection of the Mercedes pace. Yes, we did see them in Austria, but I don't think we've seen the true pace of a Mercedes at a high downforce circuit. This is the first true, like, really, really high downforce circuit. So hopefully the Mercedes will be able to find a lot more pace here with their new side pods.
And another team looking to find a lot more pace that we've not seen for the last two Grand Prix, that being Aston Martin. Of course, Aston Martin's dropped off a little bit from where they started at the beginning of the season. Fernando Alonso's now got two Grand Prix without a podium. So he's going to be quite upset, not since Canada, of course, where he managed to come in second place. I think it was Canada, yeah. But they do reckon that Aston Martin should be very much well suited to this track, because they've seen that out of all the cars, the car that seems to handle hitting curbs and tight corners such as that, and riding the curbs and otherwise, is Aston Martin's actually the best team out of the lot, and that includes Red Bull. Their car manages hitting these curbs and otherwise these quite bumpy parts of the track a lot better than almost everybody. So, whilst they were quiet at Silverstone and Spielberg, this is on the Sky Sports now, they do reckon that the AMR 23 strengths and change of direction and its ability to ride the curbs should fare a lot better in Budapest. The track temperature is also set above 40 degrees Celsius this weekend, which will also help Aston Martin, since they seem to do very well in hot conditions. So, I think Aston Martin are also quietly maybe going to make a little bit of a comeback here. But we're just seeing here an interview here where Alonso was asked by Sky Sports. He says, we are realistic. We have always been. We have never been dreamers. Sorry, this is Mike Crack. So it says, so we will look at the track and we will look at our car and how to set it up for that. If you're looking for the characteristic, it should play better into our car than other circuits that we have been to. Qualifying is key, though, especially in circuits where you struggle more to pass, like the one that will come. Although it was now a bit easier than it used to be. So I think he's also saying that we're not gonna say anything too much yet, but this track should suit us better. And if it does suit them better, we've seen what Aston Martin can do on tracks that suit them. So hopefully we'll see something similar.
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit optimistic at the moment. Those Astons have been, as you say, just off the pace for the last few weekends. yeah, it's very optimistic to think that they're going to be able to fight this weekend. Maybe they might surprise us. I'll be quite happily surprised because I am silently rooting for the Aston Martins to do quite well. It's been disappointing to not have Fernando up there because, I mean, we've had not George Russell, sorry, Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton fighting up at the front. Imagine a three-way fight between those three, including Alonso. That would be incredible.
Indeed. And, to be fair, it's only 2 weekends they've not done particularly well. Prior to that, of course, in Canada, they did very well. Fernando Alonso finishing right up in second place. So Aston Martin could hopefully make a comeback here. It's a track that suits them a lot more. And they, of course, brought big upgrades to Montreal, and it worked quite well for that track, not for the subsequent two, but it should be better suited to this track as well. So Mercedes hopefully going to do well. McLaren hopefully going to continue their great form from Silverstone, and Aston Martin hopefully in the fold. But a team that's just fallen off and that we never get to talk about as improving and showing us all wrong is the famed Ferrari. And their form is once again up in the air. Who knows? What do we expect from Ferrari this weekend?
Oh, I mean, Ferrari, gosh, if you have to describe their season as one word, it's certainly disappointing. Off the back of last season, uh, they were so close in terms of the championship points until around now in the season, which is where they started to really fall off. But this season, I mean, the wheels weren't even on the car to start with. It's just been bad all around. Coming into this Grand Prix weekend, I'm certainly hoping they can pick up the pieces a bit more. But yeah, I'm not very optimistic because I don't want to be let down again.
Indeed, and it's saying that basically don't be surprised if you see Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz fighting for pole position in qualifying, which they do tend to do. They've got very good qualifying pace in those Ferraris, but only they'll fall away come Sunday because the race pace of the Ferrari is nowhere in comparison to its qualifying time, and it's surprising that there's such a big gap between qualifying and the race itself. And also strategy does play a part to that, don't get me wrong. So, I mean, is it the less that we talk about Ferrari that they'll do better, hopefully?
I mean, it's so difficult. They've got just every resource available to them, including a Le Mans winning team. I keep reiterating this point over all of the Grand Prix weekends. But I mean, they've won Le Mans 24 hour. That is one of the most difficult races in motorsport to do. Surely you take some of those lessons and move it into your Formula One team. Hopefully, they have already started to do that, and we'll see the progress quite soon. But I mean, uh, just the constant strategy, bad calls is just it's beyond a joke at this point. They just are not seeming to learn from their mistakes.
No, not at all. However, we talk about McLaren, and I did say McLaren were going to drastically improve. Well, they did drastically improve rather in Silverstone, and we could see some great things from them in Hungary. But Lando Norris is saying probably not, because McLaren, he says, are terrible when it comes to slow corners. And of course, the Hungary ring's got plenty of these, got lots of high downforce corners. And it says in an interview here, he says, I would say pretty terrible in the slow speed corners with regards to the McLaren fighting and matching with the Red Bull. Extremely difficult to drive. I feel if we're getting excited, and I accept that, but we're going to go to a couple of tracks coming up where I'm sure people are going to be saying, what have you done now? Like, has it got it's got bad all of a sudden? So he says, we've improved a lot of things. Tire degradation, there are things you want to try, and tire cooling, and blah, blah, blah. But nothing big from that side. It's just Silverstone allowed us to look after the tires nicely, keep them in good condition. Simple as that. So a lot of it is track specific. I don't want to get too excited. Good things have to come from the upgrades, but there's still plenty of things that are a mile away from, say, competing in certain places, with even Mercedes and as a whole package competing with the Red Bull. So, yeah.
Well, I feel that he's certainly downplaying their performance in Silverstone, as you do as a racing driver, because now you've got expectations from all of your fans to get back on that podium. I mean, that car certainly, I think, still has the pace off of Austria. Austria isn't necessarily a very high downforce track, but it does have some of those corners where you do require a lot more downforce than, say, Silverstone. But yeah, off the back of Silverstone, it does look like that is the track that their car is best suited to at the moment. Hopefully, they will be able to learn some lessons though and be able to fight here in Hungary.
Indeed, and of course, Daniel Ricciardo is coming back to this Grand Prix, and we're just about wrapping things up for the preview. So, Daniel Ricciardo, where's he going to finish, Reese?
I'm going to be optimistic here. Of course, it's Danny Rick's first weekend back in Formula One in 6 months. It's going to be difficult. I'm going to say, though, that he does outperform his teammate, Yuki Tsunoda, which is already not the easiest thing to do. Not saying Yuki Tsunoda is incredible, but he's had a lot more time in that car.
Yeah.
Um,
Does he finish top 10?
I don't know about if he's going to finish top 10. I'm going to say, though, that he out-qualifies Sergio Perez this weekend.
Okay. So, surprise drivers.
Quite optimistic.
Yeah, that's quite optimistic. So, surprise drivers for me, I think we're going to watch this weekend that are going to perform quite well, just to wrap things up, is I reckon Danny Rick will perform quite well. Alex Albon will perform very well. And I actually reckon Oscar Piastri will also be quite a bit of a surprise this weekend. And who are your 3 surprise drivers?
Well, now that you've taken all of them, don't have many to.
You could choose the same ones.
Now. Well, I don't think you can ever discount Charles Leclerc. He is fighting really hard to still get that Ferrari as high up as it can get. He might have a good qualifying session, but once again in the race, they might just not have the degradation on their side. So I'm going to say Charles Leclerc. Danny Rick, I am really looking forward to having him. So I'm going to say he is going to be a standout, as will this weekend. Alex Albon is certainly one of my absolute favorites as well to watch. And then lastly, I'm going to say Lando Norris.
A whole spread of drivers, and of course, we still expect, though, the Red Bull with these new upgrades to improve even more so, and we'll probably see Max Verstappen on pole. But that wraps up our preview here. So, Reese, unless there's anything that you've got in the back there.
No, nothing more from my side.
Yeah, I think we're going to head on out. Thank you guys so much for watching this preview for Hungary, and we'll of course be streaming all of the sessions on this channel right here on Forever Sports. This is Forever Motorsports, of course. You've been joined by me and Reese, and thanks once again to Bitdefender for sponsoring the channel and for all of their work there. Go check them out in the description as well. But otherwise, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Cheerio.
Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. Today's guide on how to watch the 2023 Formula One season, which kicks off this weekend. The Bahrain Grand Prix will officially get the season underway, and there is just so much action between now and about November when the season will come to an end. Just races all around the world, more sprints, more races, a busier season than ever, and yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting season to see exactly if Red Bull can continue to sort of assert their dominance, if you're going to see Mercedes coming back, what are we going to see? And the question is, how can you watch all the action throughout the season? Now, the first things first is that we will do videos for every single Grand Prix. We will do videos on how to watch that particular Grand Prix on a free-to-air broadcaster. Which means that as long as you subscribe to the channel and you monitor us, you'll be able to sort of find out how to watch every single race on a free-to-air broadcaster. And so make sure you subscribe to the channel for that. Now, to be able to do that, though, however, there are very different broadcasters from around the world. So what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself a VPN. I recommend using ExpressVPN because we've tried and tested it and it just works. So what you're going to do, link in the description, get ExpressVPN, get yourself that year subscription as well. If you sign up for a year subscription, you'll actually get an extra 3 months for free, which means you'll be able to start watching from this weekend and it'll cover you up to about June next year. You're going to install ExpressVPN and it's going to come up something look like that. And you think if you click on the right hand side there, you're then going to get these this pop up, and those are all the locations of all the various places where you can connect to sort of servers. And what it does, it kind of geolocates your device. So for example, for Bahrain, there are free-to-air broadcasts in Belgium as well as in Austria. So you connect to those locations and you go to those sites. But if you totally wanted to watch the entire season, my recommendation would be to get F1 TV Pro. Now, it is only available in certain locations, that being the US, the Netherlands, Sweden, I think Spain, Germany. Then you'll need to use ExpressVPN if it's not covered in that region. And again, so what you do is you go on ExpressVPN, you go and select the United States, and then all you do is you turn it on. As soon as this goes green, it means that you are currently connected to a server in the United States. You're then going to go and sign up for F1 TV Pro, which is $45 for the entire year. Alternatively, it is $5 a month, which is really not a lot of money. And you can get so many more things. You can watch onboard footage with individual drivers. You get behind-the-scenes content. It really is the best way to watch Formula One. However, you can only watch it in those regions. And that is where a VPN, like ExpressVPN, will come in clutch and enable you to really sort of get the most out of F1 TV. Check out the description for a sort of step-by-step guide on exactly how you can do it. Apart from that, we'll see you guys throughout the season.
Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports for this qualifying session here in Hungary and in Budapest. You're joined by me, Mark, and Reese. You are on Forever Motorsports, and be sure to like the video right now. To all of you who are watching, we are so close to qualifying for the weekend, and what an interesting qualifying session we have in store for us. Reese, indeed, it's unbelievable at the times that are going to be put in here. I think it's going to be one of the closest sessions we've seen all season.
Yes, I certainly think that this new format that we have here, this race weekend, is certainly going to mix it up a little bit. It's going to allow us to have, I think, a few different people getting knocked out of one with everyone having to use a set of hards. I mean, it's going to make it quite difficult for some of the teams who don't necessarily run the hards all that often. But we'll see what happens.
Indeed. Sorry, I just had a tiny bit of volume come through that, which shouldn't have come through. But yeah, we are so close here. And of course, Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo will be going up against each other for the first time as teammates in the qualifying session for 2023. Daniel Ricciardo joining the team, obviously, to replace Nyck de Vries this weekend. So, do we think Daniel Ricciardo outperforms Yuki Tsunoda in qualifying, or do we think Yuki Tsunoda's experience with the car this season puts him ahead?
I think Yuki Tsunoda still has the upper hand here. I mean, he has been with that team for a lot longer than Danny Rick. I'm going to give him the benefit of a doubt, but I don't think you can count out Daniel Ricciardo all just yet.
Indeed. So, just watching here now, it's quite, weather-wise, it's still quite windy. So, you see all the flags in the background there just waving quite a bit, and people's hair just getting thrown a little bit. But still very, very sunny and no threat of rain whatsoever. Even though the humidity is relatively high, there's no threat of rain. So hopefully we should have a very dry qualifying session, which means that it's just down to the drivers and just down to the cars. And of course, you know, it's quite hot out on track. So can Red Bull's new intake manage the heat that's going to come in? That's going to be a good thing to go and see. But I mean, Reese, quickly, your predictions based off of FP3. I know we went over it a little bit earlier, but just one more time, who do you reckon is going to be in your top three?
I'm going to stick with my predictions from earlier this morning. I'm going to still stay with Verstappen P1, Norris P2. I think I said Alonso P3.
Yeah, it's a very interesting prediction indeed. I'm going to go Max Verstappen 1. I think I said Lando Norris 2. Actually, I don't even think I made a prediction, funny enough. Just thinking about
it. Yes, you did.
Did I? What was my prediction? I've forgotten my prediction.
I think it was quite close to mine, but I can't remember who your P3 was. I think it was also Max Verstappen P1, Norris P2. Someone different though in P3. Maybe Charles Leclerc.
I think I had Charles Leclerc in P3. Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think I had Charles Leclerc in P3. In which case, yeah, I think I'm still sticking with that. I think that is going to be hopefully the... well, not necessarily hopefully, but I think that's going to be my top three, and I'm probably sticking to that. It's certainly going to be a very interesting watch because the times were very, very close in session 3, of course, and I do feel like Red Bull were trying to really go for it, and they still weren't as much quicker than we thought they'd be. So qualifying-wise, I think this could be very interesting. I still think in the race, though, Red Bull will leave the rest of the pack behind.
What is he doing there?
I have no idea.
He's got his towel over his face in the pit garage. Interesting. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting session for sure. I think the Red Bulls do still have a lot of pace in hand. I don't think they necessarily showed their 100% true pace just yet. So we could still end up having them out on top with another clear win here in qualifying. I mean, some people are saying that they look like they're the new third best team in terms of pace. I don't think that's true. I think they do still have quite a lot of pace in hand.
And also, we don't forget the fact that they wouldn't move on. Yeah, no. We wouldn't move on from a very quick car to a slower car for Red Bull. Of course, they're only going to change if they know that the car will be quicker, so I'm sure this car will be quicker. But we're just 7.5 minutes away from Q1, and of course, it's a very different qualifying format in case those people watching do not know. We've got a very different qualifying format to usual. So, qualifying 1 only allowed the hard tyre, qualifying 2 only the medium, and qualifying 3 only the softs. It's the first time we're trialing this. I think it's going to be very exciting. I think it's going to be very good to obviously, you know, not waste so many tires that you don't use the weekend. And also, it shows the pace of all the cars and the different tires, so you can see if a certain tire suits a different constructor, which we've never really seen before. So we get to see exactly how much quicker each car is on each different compound. So it's certainly going to be a very, very interesting watch.
I mean, we saw in FP3 how fast the Red Bulls and the McLarens were on the mediums. I think they are certainly going to be rapid through quali 2. I don't know how everyone's going to manage those hards, though, because they're not the best quality tire. Those Alfa Romeos look quite comfortable on them, though. But I think some of the other teams are going to struggle.
And it's going to be very interesting, of course, because if a top team does tend to struggle on the hard tire, they might not even make it out of Q1. And in which case, they can't even take advantage of their medium and soft tire pace. And it could really completely fumble their plans for the day. So it's so crucial that you have pace on all 3 different compounds. Of course, you're likely to still perform as the constructors go. You know, your Red Bulls will still probably perform the best on the hard tire versus the soft tire, but it's something going to be certainly going to be different, and difference is exactly what we want. We want more variables in racing. It allows for different things to sort of happen. And I suppose when talking about Red Bull especially, we do have to ask the question though, does Sergio Perez make it out of Q1?
Oh gosh, I think if he doesn't, we're going to have some serious conversations over the next few weeks, because I think that the higher ups at Red Bull are certainly going to lose even more confidence in him. And we'll be looking towards the likes of a Daniel Ricciardo, a Yuki Tsunoda, possibly an Alex Albon.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a bit of rumors about Alex Albon saying firmly that he will not be going back to Red Bull and that he's firmly in the past, but...
Rumor was that he would firmly not go back to AlphaTauri because Williams is performing well. I think he would be open to a Red Bull seat yet again. He has been proving himself, and I mean, they still technically own him. He's still a Red Bull contracted driver.
Yeah, I mean, it is true. So yeah, we could see all manner of things sort of happening, but I can see our viewers are climbing very quickly and very steadily here, but I see our likes are not. Guys, as we keep saying, be sure to like the video as you are watching. It certainly helps the stream. If you guys go smash that like button, we get a lot more people on the stream, then we get better discussions going, and we can have an even better stream going, and some fantastic chat. And if you guys are new, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video as I say, and turn on notifications, and join me and Reese as we watch qualifying. And if you guys are really passionate about it, be sure to go and consider joining the members club. It's really not all that much money, and you get a nice little thing next to your name to show how important you are. You're far more likely to get a response from us as well in the comments, and otherwise, yeah, just do it for the bands. And otherwise, we're all here to have a good time. We're almost up to 400 viewers. Let's get those likes going, guys. Let's get it up to 100 likes as quickly as possible. There's definitely enough of you watching to get those likes there. If every single one of you going to hit that like button right now, we jump right up. Trust me, just go do it. You can unlike after the stream if you really want to, but just like it for now. Yeah, we're getting the titles going here. So, Reese, take us through our stats for Hungary.
Yes, this is the 13th race of the season. Still quite a long way to go. 23 races in total. Sorry, round 12 of the season. I apologize. Just some stats. 4.3 kilometers is the track distance. 55.2% of the track is spent at full throttle. 1 minute 13 is the current track lap record. The top speed around this track is 310.3 kilometers an hour. For those Americans out there, it's 192.8 miles an hour. And the track has 14 turns with an elevation of only 34.62 meters. It's quite an interesting track, this, with a lot of downforce needed in your setup because of these extremely tricky and tight corners. We have multiple 90-degree corners around here. The tires that we have here this weekend are the C5, the C4, and the C3 compounds. C5 being your soft and C3 being your hard. Obviously your C4 in the middle, the medium. These are the softest 3 of the compounds in the Pirelli range, going from C5 to C0.
And the weather conditions looking today, very, very clear. It's 26 degrees Celsius right now. It's a little bit humid, and the track temperature
very
is
high.
very, very high, which is what I was going to go and say. Track temperature, I actually didn't manage to see it, but it's did I say high 40s? I saw there.
Track temperature is 45 degrees Celsius.
Indeed, 45 degrees Celsius.
Very, very, very hot.
Yeah. So,
which means teams are going to struggle a little bit on those soft tires because they do struggle in higher temperatures. And possibly why those mediums ran so well earlier this afternoon.
Indeed, and that's, as I say, going to make a big effect on qualifying with the new format, of course. And I see we're up to over 500 viewers. Let's keep it going, guys. Let's try and get as close to 1,000 as quickly as possible. And again, the way we do that, like the video. If you guys are just joining us, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's get it going. We've got just about 2 minutes, or just under 2 minutes, to go until Q1 gets going. And of course, everyone will be on the hard tire, so it's going to be something very interesting, and you want to be here for all of the sessions, and tell all your friends about it as well. Let's have a fantastic discussion in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. I can see somebody joining us from Cape Town. Great to have you here. Let us know where you guys are tuning in from as well, and yeah, your thoughts and your predictions about who's going to finish where. And again, you can also do that by using our poll as well. Yeah, Vries, who do you reckon is going to get eliminated in our first qualifying session?
Oh gosh, that's a bit difficult. It's, yeah, very difficult to know who's going to be in our bottom 5 because, well, I was going to say Nyck de Vries is still being shown on our timing board, but that's the Drivers' Championships.
Yes.
He will certainly be taken off that very soon once Daniel Ricciardo does get a point or two. Let's see what happens with him. But, I mean, it's going to be difficult. I think maybe Magnussen, he hasn't been performing all that well. Possibly a Logan Sargent.
Yuki Tsunoda?
Maybe Yuki, I don't know.
Who knows?
I'm very hesitant about saying Danny Rick because I really don't want him to be eliminated in Q1.
I think it would be a great return back to Formula 1 if you can make it at least into Q2. That'd be a great return.
Yes.
I think that's automatically in the good books if Danny Rick can get into Q2, but it's going to be very difficult. The session gets going in just 30 seconds time. We're so close to Q1. We can see cars now leaving the pits. The Ferrari there seems to be the first one to make a bit of moving. It's Carlos Sainz. He's the first one to exit, and we see an Aston Martin trying to get out ahead of him, but he's not going to be able to. I think that's Fernando Alonso who's following him in, and actually there is already a couple of cars at the end of the grid there, an Aston Martin
10
and Alfa
seconds
Romeo.
left to go.
Indeed, we're so close, and we see we're almost up to 700 viewers. Let's keep it going, and a whole lot of people here telling us where they're joining in from Namibia, Ethiopia, from Vrystaat, Volcom, and from Botswana. Yeah, keep it coming, guys. And somebody from Australia there as well. So great to see everyone here. And we are going. Q1 has begun, and only the hard tire is allowed. And Alpine will be driving us out. I think that's Ocon. Indeed, it is Ocon in that bright, bright red helmet. So we will be led out by Ocon. So yeah, 18 minutes of the session.
For those of you who may be wondering why everyone has to go out on a set of hards this weekend in Quali 1, we are trialing a new qualifying format this race weekend to use up more tyres. This allows, of course, the teams to use more tyres that are brought to a race weekend, lessening the amount of wastage in fuel to bring across these tyres that then end up having to get brought back and don't get used on the track at all. So teams have to use a set of hards during Quali 1, have to use a set of mediums in Quali 2, and then if you get into Quali 3, you're only allowed to use a set of softs.
Indeed. And the fans are out in their huge numbers here at the Hungaroring. Just 16 minutes and 50 seconds left, and every single car is out with the exception of Hamilton, Hülkenberg, Russell, Albon, and Sargent. Although, as I say that, I see somebody else has just come out of the pits now, and I'm sure we're going to see everyone on track. So it's going to be a very, very busy track, and I think that could also cause a few problems there. Sergio Perez, huge qualifying session for him. He's really struggled in qualifying of late, so let's hope that he can get out of Q1. He hasn't done so in quite a while.
Yes, it's been quite difficult for him at the moment. He's been struggling, I think, a bit in the mental game of confidence, for sure. I mean, he's been lacking in that department. I'm sure that his incident that he had on Friday in FP1 will not be helping in qualifying today, but hopefully he's able to put in a good lap at the end. I see we have passed over 800 viewers now. Thank you very much for joining our stream. Please do be sure to hit the like button. It does help us get recommended by more people from the algorithm, if you believe in that stuff. But
Do believe
yes,
in it, trust me.
yes, we do.
Indeed, and people joining us from the Philippines, there's no chance of rain. From Nepal, from the French Caribbean island, from Germany, and Cebu in the Philippines. Sorry, Reese, you were saying.
Just watching Sergio Perez on his first push lap, he has put in a purple first sector. He is one of the first drivers to go out on a push lap, so that is to be expected. But let's watch what he can do throughout the rest of this lap on a set of hards. Will he be able to stay within track limits? He looked very close there into turn 8, coming through turn 9 now, approaching that mid-sector marker. Let's see what he can do through turn 10 and 11. Daniel Ricciardo also on a hot lap at the moment. A personal best in the first sector. Let's watch what he can do throughout the rest of that lap as well. Sergio Perez setting a purple middle sector. Someone has stolen his fastest first sector though. I wonder who that is.
I think it is Valtteri Bottas of all. Yeah, it's Valtteri Bottas of all the drivers. And I've said that Alfa Romeo were looking very good in the earlier sessions. So let's see what they can do. Valtteri Bottas with a purple first sector. Perez now crosses the line with our first time of the board, a 1:19.2. And in hard tires, it's quite a good time. Ricciardo, let's see what he can do in this first qualifying back since, of course, being taken out of Formula 1. He's now back, of course, with AlphaTauri. Now he crosses the line in quite a slow lap. He's going to have to do that again at 1:20.8.
Quite a little bit behind his teammate, 0.4 seconds behind Tsunoda. Maybe he just needs a few more laps to get up to pace. With Valtteri Bottas coming now to finish up his lap, he had a brilliant first sector. Not bad middle sector. Let's see where this puts him. He goes up into pole position for this session so far.
Yeah, I know, it's
0.4
fantastic.
seconds up on Perez, notably. That is brilliant for him. Verstappen, though, no purple sectors from him at all. This could be quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Bulls, they didn't really have many attempts on the hard tyre earlier, so maybe this is going to play into the fact that they didn't have the practice, so it's not as quick as they might have thought it would be. Bottas currently sitting very firmly in first at 1:18.8. Verstappen, though, does go second at 1:18.89. So just behind him, though, so Bottas is still the quickest driver on the grid, as we have just hit 1,000 viewers. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Keep sharing it. Let's keep growing. Let's try and get to 2,000 today. That would be fantastic. And how do we do that? Like the video. There are 1,000 people of you and not nearly as many likes. Hit that like button right now. And again, you can unlike after the stream. But just like for now. Let's get as many people into the stream as possible. So many people joining us from all over the world. North Carolina, USA, Hungary. How's the weather in Hungary? Sorry, I thought you were joining from there. I was like, why are you not watching? It's very, very sunny in Hungary today, so it's quite hot. Hamilton on a hot lap.
At the moment. 0.2 down on Bottas's fastest time at the moment. George Russell also on a hot lap. Also 0.2 down on Bottas's time. So a lot of people putting him some very, very competitive times at the moment. These should... those sectors should put the two Mercs in between Verstappen and Piastri. Wow, I didn't notice Piastri and Norris put in some brilliant laps there. And as I say that, Hamilton does split Verstappen and Piastri. 0.3 down on Bottas's time. Russell puts himself between Verstappen and Hamilton. Just splitting those two.
Watching a replay here of Kevin Magnussen, I think he just loses in one of the race control has noted that track limits at turn 5. Magnussen's time has been deleted. Very, very wide Magnussen went there, so no complaints whatsoever. Very, very wide. So his lap time has been deleted. So drivers without lap times: Alex Albon, Kevin Magnussen, and Logan Sargent. They still need to get around. We've got 12 minutes left of Q1. Gasly's currently 0.4 seconds behind Bottas on his hard push lap here, so it's not looking very good for him. And now watching Albon and Sargent on their attempts. Albon's been racing so well of recent. Let's see how he fares. First sector, he's 0.25 seconds behind Bottas, so not too bad, but he still needs to pick it up around the rest of the track.
Yes, interesting to see just how mixed it is in the top 10 at the moment as Pierre Gasly puts himself into P9. Brilliant lap from himself. Albon's coming through the final corner at the moment. Let's see where this lap time puts him. DRS now wide open, and across the line it puts him up into 8th position. Well out of that bottom 5. The current bottom 5 is... I was going to say Logan Sargent, but Sargent moves himself up into 12th. It is Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, and Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, Stroll currently on a push lap here. Let's see how he does in his sector 2 compared to Ocon's time, of course, is being compared to. He's up on Ocon's time, but only just. And that's not going to be fantastic, though, because it doesn't really take him out of that danger zone with just 11 minutes left. Alonso now also following. Let's see, he's being compared to Bottas's time. His sector 2 time just about to come up now. Let's see how quick he is compared to Bottas. And he's just behind him, 0.226 seconds. So this could be quite a quick lap for Alonso. Stroll now crosses the line and only moves himself into 12th position, so still in danger there. Alonso now following his teammate, currently sits in 13th
Bottas
position.
goes even faster.
My word, Bottas
Valtteri
is just
Bottas
doing unbelievable
flying
things.
out there.
Here comes
This is
Alonso.
brilliant.
Let's just see. Sorry, I will come back to that. Alonso.
Alonso's
Let's go.
DRS is now
Oh, my
open,
word.
comes across the line, moves himself into 5th position. Not too bad from him. Oscar Piastri has had his track time deleted for track limits at turn 12.
Aw.
Track limits could become another issue here this race weekend.
Piastri
as Oscar
with a very
Piastri
quick
puts in
lap,
another
yeah.
lap time to put himself into P4.
Yeah, so
So that's
McLaren's
fine. His lap time was deleted, but he put in another better lap.
indeed. So the McLaren's looking relatively decent for their time so far. Red Bull are still not first. Alex Albon's track time has
Oh,
been
no.
deleted again. So
And Sargent.
yeah, so both
Sargent
Williams
also has nothing.
have still
Magnussen
not got a
moves
time.
himself up into P15. Not good enough just yet for Kevin Magnussen, still in that relegation zone.
And as the comments are also making note of, the Ferraris are not looking very good right now. Leclerc sitting in 11th, Sainz in 16th. So they really need to improve upon those times as quickly as possible. They're not really up there with the other bunch. But how is this for Alfa Romeo?
I mean, brilliant pace from the Alfa Romeos at the moment, sitting in P1 and P9. We did think that these tyres would bring a bit of a shake-up, and it certainly is so far. I mean, really unexpected to have Valtteri Bottas all the way up in P1 ahead of Max Verstappen. Just watching a replay of Alex Albon breaking those track limits into turn, I think it's turn 6 or 5, ever so slightly going wide there, but it is the rules, unfortunately, and he did go wide. Does he do it twice, or is this Sargent? Sorry, this is Sargent coming into...
Oh no, Sargent definitely beyond the things. And also,
way too wide.
he loses quite a bit of time due to that bollard as well. Just watching a replay here of, I think this is Oscar Piastri. Yeah, just also goes wide and also has his lap time deleted. I think, is that his another lap time? Yeah, this is his other lap. No, it's not. That was his previous lap time. I was just watching.
Previous lap time, because his time has started there. Lando Norris has moved himself up into P4 in the meantime, and Sergio Perez has gone even faster than Max Verstappen to move him up in second.
Ferrari are panicking here because Leclerc on the radio being told, let's stay calm, but come on. Like,
Sainz moves himself up into P8, so hopefully the panic is for nothing. Max Verstappen finishes another lap. Let's see if this makes him faster. Yes, it
Only
does.
just.
He moves himself up into P1, 0.1 seconds faster than Valtteri Bottas. Bottas could still have some time out there. Alex Albon finishes another lap, puts himself up into P8.
yeah, so Alex Albon, much better lap there from him. Ricciardo's going on his lap. Let's hope that he can get out of the relegation zone. There's just 8 minutes left of the session, so still a bit of time for all the drivers on the grid. But, you know, we were actually saying earlier that Alfa Romeo were doing some good times on the hard tires, and that they were about the only ones really practicing with them. And it's shown, because Valtteri Bottas is right near the top in second position. Fantastic work from him.
Daniel Ricciardo is slightly up on Nico Hülkenberg's time at the moment. That is the driver he needs to beat to get out of that bottom 5. Let's see if he's able to hold on to that in the rest of this sector. Yuki Tsunoda also quite a bit up on Nico Hülkenberg. He will certainly be getting himself out of that bottom zone. Ricciardo moves himself up into 7th place. Brilliant from Daniel Ricciardo with a newly upgraded car. Let's see where Yuki Tsunoda puts himself now, coming through turn 14, just behind Daniel Ricciardo. Let's see, opens his DRS, comes across the line, and puts himself up into 4th. Brilliant
Great lap there from Yuki Tsunoda. Yeah, so AlphaTauri doing relatively well there. Everyone's pretty much made their way back into the pits so that they can have another go just before the end of the session. Of course, the track will get a little bit quicker as the session goes on, so you want to get a lap as late as possible. As you can just see, AlphaTauri, the latest ones to go over the line, push themselves right up the grid. And mixing with those ahead of them. But I think with some big panic stations right now for Ferrari. Somebody's saying that, aren't you panicking about Merck's pace? No, we've seen Merck's pace. I think they should be fine. But Ferrari, I'm a little bit panicking about, because even Leclerc said, let's not panic. But, like, come on. You know, because Ferrari is very much right near the danger zone there, in 15th and 11th. And they weren't looking like they weren't giving it all. They were certainly giving it all. So I think panic stations in the red machine.
Yes, I mean... They are a bit close for comfort there with Leclerc in 15th. I think he'll certainly be sweating a little bit. He'll be feeling like George Russell under his helmet. And then we have Lance Stroll down on 16th. It's quite odd. He's been picking up the pace over the past few race weekends, but certainly not finding any pace here. Quite far off of his teammates, who's up in P9 at the moment. Just watching Esteban Ocon going 2 up on Leclerc's time at the moment to get out of that bottom 5. He should certainly be able to do that at the moment. possibly even being able to
Gasly's
get
got a
into
purple sector in sector 1.
Purple sector, brilliant for Gasly. Looks like those Alpines still have quite a bit of pace to show out here. 1,400 of you watching alongside with us. Thank you very much for joining our channel. Please be sure to hit that like button. It helps us get recommended more by new viewers. Yeah, please do also subscribe if you enjoy the content that we are putting out for you. A long race weekend still ahead of us. We have the race tomorrow, as well as all the Formula 2 and Formula 3 races as well. Gasly going 0.04 up on Max Verstappen in the middle sector. Maybe he might be able to contend for that pole position.
Meanwhile, Ocon, his teammate, is about to cross the line. Let's see how far up he gets. He's currently in 19th. He pushes right up into 4th position at 118.85. So still behind Perez, Bottas and Verstappen. But his teammate Gasly's going even quicker. He now crosses the line and only goes second, ever so slightly behind Max Verstappen at 118.743. So it's really tight right up the top there. We've got 118s from Max Verstappen down to Yuki Tsunoda in 6th. So great laps from them. And yeah, all the other teams are going to really want to get out there. But Leclerc currently now sits 16th, which is the relegation zone. So Ferrari in a little bit of a panic right now, I think. But hopefully they won't get relegated here. Just 4 minutes and 45 seconds left. Charles Leclerc currently on an outlap with those hard tires, gearing up to start his fast lap as he's coming around the final corner now. Vries, talk us through his lap.
Yes, this is the point where he has to make or break it. DRS now wide open, approaching that start-finish line. He does start his next hot lap. Let's see what he can do through this first sector. Approaching that braking point, hard on the brakes through turn 1. We see how drivers go so wide over the apex here. DRS wide open yet again in that second DRS zone. Approaching that tricky third corner, braking late there, getting on the power yet again, and then through turn 4, looking neat and tidy so far, coming towards that first time marker. He is 0.3 up on Zhou Guanyu's time with the fastest first sector of everyone so far. Let's see what the Ferrari can do. Hopefully there is no need to panic just yet. They may be able to take that fastest lap time away from Max Verstappen. May the Ferraris still be in contention this race weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic first sector. Let's see if you can back it up in sectors 2 and 3 and also stay with the track limits, which has been a bit of a thing so far this session. Not as big as, of course, in Austria, but certainly a big thing. Still 0.45 up in time. Of course, that's
not up on Max Verstappen.
Perez goes quickest.
Was even faster.
Yes, fantastic lap there from Perez. 118.3. So Zhou now goes fastest.
Goes even faster. Brilliant from Zhou Guanyu, the Chinese driver in his second Formula 1 season, goes fastest in qualifying. Charles Leclerc fighting the steering wheel in that final sector. He goes third fastest overall so far with a 118.4. 0.2 down on Zhou Guanyu's time. Stroll goes 7th ahead of his teammate. Then we have Alonso coming across the line. Where does he put himself? He goes up into P4.
Yeah, so these times are tumbling very quickly, and now Sainz and Hamilton are in the relegation zone. They need to get out of it.
Up into 4th now, Mark.
Indeed, and we've got 1,500 people watching, and welcome to the stream, guys. Very good to have you here. Keep telling us in the comments what your thoughts are of the session so far. Just 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. We've currently got Sainz and Hamilton in the relegation zone. Though Sainz is on a hot lap right now, coming towards the last corner. Let's see if he can get up into the...
moves himself up into 2nd, Mark.
Yes, fantastic lap there.
0.066 down on Zhou Guanyu's time. Sainz comes across the line now ahead of his teammate up into P4.
Yeah, so great laps there from the Ferraris. They've sort of climbed their way out of that relegation zone, but I'm not sure if they're necessarily safe. As we just see now,
Norris has had his lap time deleted.
I was about to say, Lando Norris's time has been deleted, which means that he falls into danger. Just 2 minutes left. It's quite crucial that he gets back out there. Well, I say he's back out there. He's already there, but to get another lap going as he's currently on a cooldown lap. Just watching a replay as to where he loses the track limits. We can't quite tell where this is.
Turn 6.
There, you can just see it.
Just got a hand of oversteer, and unfortunately that took him over the white lines there. Very unfortunate. It was not really in his control, but the rules are the rules, and he ever so slightly went over that white line there.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that these track limits are becoming a thing. Toto Wolff is looking... I'd say calm. I think he looks relatively calm in the pits.
Hamilton's on an outlap at least, so let's see what he can do as he tries to come past the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz on his outlap. But they are kind of squabbling a little bit for track position because they really do need to get out there now with 1 minute and 23 seconds. He's trying to fight with the Haas now, who's just trying to get some space for himself. Will we see Hamilton keeping calm, or will he maybe jump some people in the queue here.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
think
we see the Ferrari now jumping
just
back
jumps
ahead
ahead of him. So yeah,
he says, well, you got ahead of me. I'm going to take that place back. Thank you very much.
it is
There's
quite
still enough
funny.
time on the clock. You
1
calm
minute.
down.
1 minute to go, so this is going to be the last attempts from everybody pretty much as they're gearing up. We're on board with Hamilton, who's of course in that relegation zone, the main driver in that relegation zone. The other ones there, the 2 Haas and the 2 Williams. So Hamilton now gears up and he starts his hot lap. And I think we still have to watch the rest of the grid because of course I think all of these times are going to drop. Well, they're going to get quicker than everybody else in these last 40 seconds here. So we could potentially see drivers down from maybe Gasly or maybe even Verstappen's time getting beaten. So you're going to see these times tumble right at the end of the session. It's all to race for. Cannot afford a mistake. Hamilton especially, as he's in 17th. Here he goes, getting towards the end of Sector 1, coming around those couple of turns. He's being followed by a McLaren. I think that is of Lando Norris. Hamilton comes towards Ricciardo's time, which Ricciardo beat. He's up on Ricciardo's time, 0.1 seconds up. But it's not that quick, if I'm honest, so he really needs to get going.
Yes, looking neat and tidy though, but his teammate George Russell not up on the time that he needs to be right now. Certainly he is going to be in quite a lot of trouble because he is down in that relegation zone. Ricciardo gets himself out of that relegation zone, puts himself up into P12. Yuki Tsunoda behind him in P14. Interesting to see Daniel Ricciardo doing quite well. Let's see if he's able to keep himself up into Q2. Daniel Ricciardo has now finished. Verstappen moves himself up into P2
Not
ahead
first,
of
though.
Perez.
Not
First, not able to beat the time of Zhou Guanyu. Hulkenberg moves himself up now into P8. Russell improving in his middle sector. Will that be enough?
Let's just go to Hamilton now.
Yeah. Corner now. Let's see what he's able to do. He opens his DRS, coming to that final finish line. He moves himself out of that bottom 5 into P7. Ricciardo now is the driver.
Is Russell safe though? Is Russell going to be safe? Russell is not safe. Russell's out. Russell's out of the session.
Ricciardo gets into quali 2. Daniel Ricciardo on his return.
Wait, Alex Albon's still going round, I think.
Let's see what Albon does though.
No, wait, he looks to be going slowly. No, he's only starting his lap, so I don't know. I think he's out, so...
If Danny Rick is able to stay in quali 2, this is going to be a big talking point.
Yeah, and ahead of his teammate Yuki Tsunoda, of course, who is out as Yuki Tsunoda is eliminated. I think that is our final grid there. I'm watching replay of Toto Wolff. Oh, he's angry. Oh, he's very angry.
That's going to become a meme yet again, as we've seen in the past. Almost 1,700 of you watching alongside with us. Thank you very much for joining on the stream. Please do like the video and subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy the content we are putting out for you. George Russell on the radio. Just say, don't tell me we're out, please. And then being told, unfortunately, he is out. And then, yeah, a few expletives on the radio.
Sure. I cannot believe that. I mean, it just shows how bizarre the new format is. And I absolutely love it. Look at that. Zhou Guanyu right at the top of Q1. And the Alfa Romeos were exceptional this session. And looking at those relegated, both Williams drivers, Sargent and Alex Albon, unfortunately, are out. Yuki Tsunoda is out, but not Daniel Ricciardo, his teammate. George Russell and Kevin Magnussen, the other 2 drivers, also out of this session. So, Ricciardo survives, and so do both Alfa Romeos. So, fantastic driving from the team that's probably been underperforming the most outside of AlphaTauri. Being Alfa Romeo.
Sorry, not Zhou Guanyu. Logan Sargent, just watching him lose his lap time there for track limits. I mean, yeah, that's very disappointing for him. Just watching with Lando Norris, did he possibly not get another lap time in because of traffic? He overtook his own teammate.
I was desperately trying to get past everybody, and I'm not sure if you managed to get there in time, but luckily he is into the next session, so just doing a lot of overtaking. Just watching George Russell, a replay of him, seeing, I think Lando Norris comes up on his inside, maybe? Yeah, it is Lando Norris. And that pretty much gets in the way of his starting his fast lap, so I think it might have thrown off a little bit. You could just see all these drivers trying to get ahead of George Russell, so maybe he just got thrown off.
They know there's only so much time left, so that's unfortunately why he lost his momentum starting his hot lap. We have now hit 1,700 of you watching alongside with us. Thank you very much for joining us. We are about to head into quali 2. Toto Wolff looking very, very upset in the Mercedes pit wall because George Russell has been eliminated from qualifying 1. Of course, we do have this new qualifying, being tested this race weekend, watching him
very
angry.
Angry German there.
Yeah, very angry Toto Wolff there.
Well,
it's going to be very interesting.
Is he Austrian? He's Austrian, isn't he? Yeah, so.
Yes, he's Austrian.
But Toto Wolff as well, I think I'm interested to know if he's. I mean, Yuki Tsunoda also once again looks very upset, and I think he's also got to be very upset. His teammate, his brand new teammate, who's not been racing the entire year, has beaten him into Q2. So I mean, that's a huge statement in itself as well. But going back to Toto Wolff, I mean, he almost looks like he's not necessarily angry with George Russell. Do you think he's going to have a moan about the new format?
Possibly. I mean, he also likes to have a moan, so I'm sure he will.
Just watching the 5 drivers here walking down the grid. That's Kevin Magnussen, Yuki Tsunoda, Alex Albon, Russell, and Sargent. So, yeah, as Vries says, the walk of shame. You have to walk past everybody on your way down to go and get weighed, I think it is. Yeah.
Yes.
So, those drivers are out. But again, notably, Ricciardo is still in. Both Alfa Romeos are still in. Hulkenberg is still in for the Haas. And the Ferraris did salvage it. But most importantly, Russell is out. Watching a replay now of Pierre Gasly, I think also just watching all this traffic ahead of him trying to start his lap. Gets caught behind, I think that is Oscar Piastri, and then tries to get, oh my word, so much traffic that they have to put up with right at the end. But this is why you don't leave it to the end. Zhou Guanyu went over very early compared to everybody else, and look at his time compared to everyone else. That's why you go early.
Yes, I mean, that's why you don't take the risk of running it too close to the clock. I mean, you know there's going to be a risk when you leave too late out of the pits. So, yeah, just be better.
Yeah, so now we're just about to get going with Q2. Lewis Hamilton, of course, now the only remaining Mercedes driver, so it's quite crucial that he does well in these next 2 sessions. And this session is now, of course, going to be on the medium tire. So let's see how the cars fare. And I think Alfa Romeo, big hats off to them because they did it intelligently. They practiced on the hard tire. They made sure the hard tire was good, and it got them out of Q1. So they're both of them into Q2. Let's see how they can fare on the mediums this time now.
Yes, Phil saying there's no way Zhou had a legal lap. He must have cut a corner somewhere. I mean, the stewards are extremely strict this year, so it certainly would have been legal. But just very, very impressive from Zhou Guanyu. I mean, it's only a second season in Formula One. We have William Russell joining us yet again in the chat. Thank you very much for joining us. Great to have you here. We're about to hit 1,800 viewers. Thank you very much for joining us. As I say that, yes, we do hit that. Please do like the video. It helps us get recommended more by the YouTube algorithm, and it does mean a lot to us. As we see the drivers that have been eliminated, we see Alex Albon unfortunately walking down the grid to go and get weighed. I'm certainly quite disappointed that we have lost him from the session because he has been so dominant throughout the rest of the half of the season.
Sorry, race control has noted an incident involving Bottas and Stroll for impeding. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be talked about further because both of them at least made it out of the session. But interesting that they're going to talk about that, and I'm sure we might see similar sort of things happening later. So maybe at the end of the session and this evening, we'll probably see some penalties get handed out to drivers on the grid. So it's very crucial that they behave themselves as well as get some quick laps in. As we've got medium tires here, the Red Bulls right at the front of the grid as we're about to get that green light. And we'll see them race away. And there we go. Q2 is underway, and it almost looks like a bit of a stall there from the Red Bull driver there. But whatever. We'll move on. And with 1,800 people watching, and many of you still needing to go and hit that like button, we have got Q2 underway. Just 15 minutes this session is, and all on medium tires.
Yes, this should be an interesting session. Now, we did see quite a few different teams being very rapid on those mediums, notably the Red Bulls, of course, being very fast on those mediums. Mercedes, though, very fast on the soft, so it could be an interesting quali 3 session later. We have almost 1,900 of you watching alongside with us. Thank you very much for joining us. It's ramping up to be a very exciting qualifying 2 session. 14 minutes and 16 seconds left to go of the session. Still a long way to go with only 2 drivers out on track, Perez and Ocon.
And again, be sure to go and participate in our poll. We've got a poll going, of course, for who will go quickest in qualifying. We've got Verstappen, who's currently sits with 53%, Hamilton with 26%, Norris with 9%, and anybody else with 11%. So, yeah, let's see if that still holds true. All 3 of those drivers are still in, and they have been going around relatively quickly. Of course, there are other drivers that we could talk about, but let's see what happens in this Q2 session. Now, do you think we're going to see any other massive surprises here, Reese?
I mean, as we look at Danny Ricciardo, I'm certainly very, very impressed with him beating out his teammate in the first race back in Formula One. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, it is Yuki Tsunoda who's not necessarily the most dominant teammate, but still, he's a lot more comfortable with that car. And Danny Rick is just come and outshone him in his own car in the first race weekend. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure now on Yuki for sure. But if Danny Rick can get a good qualifying session out and possibly outshine Perez, he may get that Red Bull seat quite soon.
Well, it's going to be difficult with Perez having put in the third fastest lap. Sorry, was the second fastest? Well, anyway, one of the top 3 lap times in Q1, and we're currently on board with Perez, who's finally made it out of Q1, first time in a while. So let's see how he fares in today's session as well. Following on board, he's going to put in the first time for us, and he puts in a Sector 1 time of a 28.3, so that's the time to beat right now for all the drivers on mediums, and most of the drivers are still in the pits, I note, maybe thinking the tyre degradation's a bit more. Maybe that's why some of the times at the end weren't beaten. So yeah, I think maybe that's why they're just staying in the pits a little bit longer this time, but Perez out there nice and early, and there are 3 other cars with him: Ocon, Verstappen, and Stroll. So a couple of cars now leaving the pits and joining the track, so we'll start to see a bit more action.
Yes, Sergio Perez taking that fastest middle sector now, but someone has taken away his fastest first sector. I think it is Esteban Ocon who has taken that fastest first sector from him. Stroll has the fastest time on the board at the moment as he comes across the line now, I think. But yeah, just waiting for Sergio Perez to come across the line. He does now come across the line with a 1:17.6.
So we're seeing already a very much quicker time than the hard tyre runs. We saw 1:18s for the hard tyres. We're seeing 1:17s for the mediums. So one imagines for the soft tyre runs, we'll see some 1:16s, maybe even a very high 1:15. So those are the sort of times we're looking at as we have hit 2,100 viewers. Welcome to all of you to the channel. Please subscribe whilst you're here. Really, do be sure to support the channel and support the community. We've got the best Formula 1 community and the best bunch of fans, everybody in the chat, so be sure to stick around. That's exactly where you want to be, watching all of the Formula 1 action throughout the entire year. Just 11 minutes and 20 seconds left. Perez and Ocon, the 2 with times on the board. Following now on board with Stroll, who's done relatively well in sectors 1 and 2, but I think he's going to go slower than both drivers right now. He's going to go over, and I think a 1:18. Let's just see, a 1:17.8, so quicker than Ocon. But still behind Perez, so not too bad a lap there from Lance Stroll.
Quite fast though on the mediums.
Yeah,
looking quite rapid out there, just waiting for, I think this is Carlos Sainz to finish up his lap. Let's see what he is able to do. I think it is actually an out lap. Yes, it is an out lap. He is going to be starting his first hot lap. Let's see what he is able to do. It should be a very rapid lap for him. We saw how the Ferraris were quite quick on the mediums and softs. DRS is now wide open. He crosses that start-finish line and he starts his first hot lap of qualifying 2. 10 minutes and 35 seconds left of this session. Not long left, and still a lot of drivers still yet to put a lap time on the board.
Yeah, at least every single car is out of the pits right now. We've got all 15 cars out on track. Sainz now starting his lap. He's coming towards the end of Sector 1. Will he improve upon Sergio Perez's time? The Ferraris have been very quiet since yesterday and today. Let's see what he puts in. Only a green time, a 28.1, so not a purple sector time there for Carlos Sainz, but I think that's also because Verstappen has just set a fastest time there in the Red Bull, a 1:17.2. So maybe we could see 1:16s on the medium tire. So that's going to be very, very rapid. So Sainz now trying to chase down Verstappen's time as it comes towards the end of Sector 2. Verstappen set a 55.5 in Sector 2. Sainz now approaching. Let's see if he can beat that. I think he's going to go a little bit slower, but just by how much? A 56, I think he put in. No, just a 55.9. That's what he actually put in. So very, very close to Verstappen's time. Lando Norris, however, has set a purple sector.
Lando Norris is looking very rapid out on track. Will he be able to match Max Verstappen's fastest time or even beat it? It's going to be very interesting to see what he is able to do through his final sector. He is coming through there now. Sainz crosses the lap and puts himself up into P4. Lando Norris comes through that final corner and puts himself up into P2 with a 1:17.3, just behind Max Verstappen.
Yeah, fantastic lap there from Lando Norris, 0.032 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Just 9 minutes left of the session. The 2 Ferraris have gone over in 1:17s. Leclerc 1:17.8, Sainz a 1:17.9. Both of them slower than Alonso, who got a 1:17.7, and Perez is still up there with a 1:17.6. And Piastri, I think, has just gone second fastest. So the McLaren's really showing their pace on the medium tyre here. Piastri's got second fastest, a 1:17.5, so gone quicker than Sergio Perez. And I think Max Verstappen's time has been deleted.
Yes, I was going to say, there's no Red Bull at the top of the time anymore. It's it's Lando Norris. Just watching Lance Stroll also having his lap time deleted for going wide in the final sector there. Bottas moves himself up into P10, not as rapid on the set of mediums as they were on the set of hards. Zhou is up into P5 though, ahead of the two Ferraris. Hamilton moves himself now up into that 5th position, up into that qualifying place to get into that top 5 now. Will he be able to find some more pace out there to challenge for that top spot?
It's certainly ramping up to be one of the most interesting weekends, I think, of the season, because the times just across the board are just all over the place. There's no clear dominant car. There really isn't.
No, it's quite evenly paced at the moment, which is quite good for us. I mean, it's going to be very exciting to have a bunch of people fighting it out for that top spot.
Stroll right now has gone slower in Sector 2 than Bottas. Of course, he's being compared to as Bottas is actually still in the relegation zone. So Stroll's gone slower. So I don't think he's going to get out of that relegation zone. No, indeed, he doesn't even get out of 14th. So still right down near the bottom. Very big danger zones there for Lance Stroll. Max Verstappen, of course, is in the pits right now with just 7 minutes left and has not put a time on the board because his time was deleted. So they're going to try and get him out into the track as quickly as possible, I imagine, on probably a brand new set of mediums. As we do see the tires have come off. One imagines they're going to put a brand new set on so that he can go and get a quick time there. But they can't wait too long. We saw exactly what happened to George Russell for waiting too long. He is out, not in Q2. So let's hope that Red Bull don't make the same mistake here with Max Verstappen. His teammate Sergio Perez, though, sits very firmly in 3rd behind the two McLarens of Norris and Piastri.
Yes, this is going to be quite crucial for Max Verstappen to get out there and put in a clean lap now. That keeps him at least safe in terms of that relegation zone because he currently has no lap time on the board. We haven't seen which corner it was that he went wide in, but we do know that it was for a track infringement. So he did go over those lines. We do see a lot of the teams now putting on a new set of mediums on their cars. Of course, they are only allowed to use mediums in this session, so they will be putting on a new set and going out again quite shortly with 6 minutes and 15 seconds left of the session to go.
I still can't believe it, and I know we haven't really talked about recently, but it's just the unbelievable change in McLaren. How is it that they've gone from arguably right at the beginning of the season, the worst team on the grid, like they were one of the worst teams, like even challenging the likes of Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri for that bottom spot essentially, to right near challenging not just the Ferraris and the Mercs, but the Red Bulls with their times. I mean, they're currently sitting 1st and 2nd quite comfortably. I know obviously Max Verstappen's time was deleted, but they're sitting very comfortably ahead of Sergio Perez in those orange cars of theirs. I mean, it's unbelievable the turnaround they've managed to do.
Well, I mean, I think they've been smart with the way that they've developed that car for sure. Maybe they just waited at the beginning of the season not to develop for a little bit, saw what other teams were doing in terms of their philosophies and seeing the way their cars worked. Certainly took a little bit of inspiration from the Aston Martins, a bit of inspiration from the Red Bulls, and it's worked for them, which has been brilliant because we want to see another team fighting for the top, and they certainly are putting in some great times out there at the moment.
Indeed, and as James says in the comments, the McLaren's looking very impressive. Amazing the development from the start of the season until now, and indeed we are very impressed with them. And you can just see James's name there is just highlighted in green, and unlike all the rest of you who are only just in that grey color. If you guys want us to see your comments more clearly, be sure to go and consider becoming a member of the channel. You can get your name in a fancy color as well. Just 4 minutes and 45 seconds left of the session, and will Max Verstappen put in the new fastest lap time? He currently obviously sits without a time, so sits stone dead last in this session. So he's on a brand new set of mediums. This could be a rapid lap, and he's the only car currently out there. And of course, that's because they don't want to risk the same thing that happened to George Russell, getting caught. But if I was every other team and I was trying to create a bit of havoc for Max Verstappen, I'd be getting out of the pits right now, just to try and cause a little bit of traffic.
Just to hold him up on his hot lap. I think that they'll get a good clean lap in though. Yeah, let's see what he's able to do. He comes through the final 2 corners now and will start his next hot lap on that set of mediums. He should be quite quick out there. He's been notably very, very neat and tidy throughout the past few races and doesn't normally have track infringement penalties. So it's quite surprising to see him have a lap time deleted here. Goes into the braking zone, into turn 1, nice and late, 301 kilometers an hour. There's top speed as he goes back on the power. DRS wide open yet again, braking into turn 3. We see how close his head gets there to the headrest as he goes through there. Lots of G's on the body as he comes through turn 4 as well, through there at 250 kilometers an hour, approaching turn 5. 0.1 up on the fastest lap time at the moment with that purple first sector. Let's see what he can do through sectors 2 and 3.
Yeah, just making sure he stays within. Yeah,
turn 6, he's very well within track limits now. Just trying to be as neat and tidy as possible, not to have this lap time deleted. Making his way through the middle sector through turns 8, 9, and 10. He's still well within track limits there, keeping it very, very tidy now. He does not want to have his lap time deleted yet again. Coming across that middle sector, 0.3 up, but not a fastest lap time.
Not on Norris, notably. He's only up on Bottas's time there. Slow second sector from Max Verstappen. So let's see how he fares in the last sector. Of course, you know, he makes up a lot of time in his last sectors around most tracks. I'm sure he'll go quite quickly here. But interesting that he's not actually showing as much pace as they usually do. Very close to track limits there, but he's still safe. And he moves into second.
Up into second.
Yeah, so not quicker than Norris, notably. And other drivers are coming out now to start setting their laps. So I'm sure Verstappen will be safe. But it just shows the Red Bull is not currently as quick as it used to be. And you can see
he may also be... He may be fueled up to do a double push. So he may just warm down for a little bit now, regain some electrical energy, and then we'll go out on another push lap. Interestingly enough, though, that Lando Norris's lap time is very, very strong still.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic racing there from the two McLarens. I mean, Piastri is literally right behind Max Verstappen's time. But, as you say, I think Max Verstappen might be having a little bit of a higher fuel load. And also, we can just see he goes a little bit wide and hits a bit of the bollards there. Just causes a little bit of loss in time there from Max Verstappen. But he is, of course, world champion for a reason. He knows what he's doing. But now all the other drivers are out on track, with the exception of Lando Norris, who I think has decided he is safe. So he's not going to make his way out of the pits, I don't think. The rest of the drivers, though, all of them out there, and lots of action coming in the next 1 minute and 35 seconds. We are so close to 3,000 viewers as well, so let's keep it going. Like the video, keep hitting that like button. There's so many of you here, and not enough of you hitting that like button. Go and smash that like button, and let's grow the stream even more. Lance Stroll now, obviously, he's sitting stone dead last in 15th. Can he improve upon his lap times? He's not been great today in qualifying. Let's hopefully see how he does compared to Hulkenberg's time at the end of Sector 1. Here he comes. And is it quicker? It's slower. It's really not looking good. It's not looking good.
Yes, I mean, not looking very strong out there for Lance Stroll. Nico Hulkenberg, though, up on Norris's time in the first sector.
Sure.
Will he be able to get well out of that bottom 5? Stroll, very...
Yeah, I was about to say, Stroll's just messed that up there.
Yeah, he went completely over the curb. His lap time will be deleted nonetheless. There's no point in him pushing.
Yeah, so Stroll is
I think he's possibly trying to get across the line yet again, but he may encounter quite a bit of traffic.
Yeah, Ricciardo on his run now. Let's see how he compares to Hulkenberg's time in Sector 2. Hulkenberg's slow. Well, I say slow. He's slow on Lando Norris's time, but he's looking quite good otherwise. Ricciardo's literally bang on with Hulkenberg's time, but of course that's Hulkenberg's old time. I don't think Ricciardo's going to make it out of the session. I don't think the car's quite good enough. Lance Stroll crosses the line. He moves only into 13th. Lance Stroll will be out of the session. There's no ways he will get out of that thing there. So Lance Stroll will not get out of the session. Hulkenberg moves up into 4th position, ahead of Sergio Perez. Ricciardo now crosses the line, and I think he's out of the session. Yeah, only into 11th position.
Not a bad qualifying position for him, up in P11. Brilliant for Daniel Ricciardo on his Formula 1 return after 10-month hiatus. Hamilton goes up into P2. Brilliant lap time from him, just ahead of Max Verstappen, and ever so slightly down on Lando Norris's time. Sainz comes across the line, moves himself out of that.
Sainz is at risk here.
That puts Leclerc at risk now. Charles Leclerc is out in qualifying 2. Charles Leclerc has been eliminated.
No, he's not. He's still going in his lap. It's Sainz that's very much in danger. Sainz has finished his qualifying. I think if Leclerc goes quicker, Sainz is going to be out. That's the Ferrari we need to watch here. Ocon has gone round. He only finishes in 11th, so he is out of this session. Leclerc now coming across the line. Let's see how he fares. And will he put his teammate out of this race? He moves into 6th. Yes. Carlos Sainz now is officially out. Reese, that's the Ferrari that's out. Carlos Sainz is out of the session. Fernando Alonso, can he get quicker? Can he get himself out? Only into 10th. So I think that's our final 5 drivers that are going to be eliminated, because I don't think anybody else is really on a push lap here. Sergio Perez has given up on his lap. He knows he's safe. So our drivers that I think I can confirm that are eliminated: Carlos Sainz and both Alpines, Ocon and Gasly, Lance Stroll and Daniel Ricciardo. So no real surprises with
Gasly
regards
has
to.
had his lap time deleted, so Gasly has moved all the way down to P15 now. He is out of this session. I think let's end this poll that we have running at the moment, Mark. A lot of people asking for a new poll to be run here. Let's see what we can do about that. Let's see what we should vote for as well. That was a very interesting session there with some different drivers taking that top spot. I mean, Lando Norris, certainly interesting to have him all the way in P1, Hamilton in P2, Verstappen P3. Then a very standout driver is Valtteri Bottas down in P4, then Piastri P5, Charles Leclerc in 6th, Hulkenberg 7th, Sergio Perez P8, Zhou 9th, Alonso P10. Then our eliminated drivers is Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, Esteban Ocon for the Alpine, Daniel Ricciardo on his return to Formula 1 in 13th. Then we have Lance Stroll 14th and Pierre Gasly in 15th.
So Sainz could not make it out, and I think that's I'm almost saying it's a surprise, but at the same time, the Ferraris were not looking very good in practice 3. So, I mean, disaster class for Sainz there. So Sainz is out and George Russell are out, not even making it into Q3. So two major drivers not making it into Q3. Alonso only just safe. But also look at Valtteri Bottas up there in 4th position. His Alfa Romeos have been very, very good.
Yes, I think they've certainly found quite a lot of pace here. I mean, I'm just going to look back into my notes and see what upgrades they brought this race weekend, because, I mean, they found quite a lot of pace. Nothing. They didn't bring any upgrades at all.
Yeah, so I think it's just been a really suitable track for them, and also they've just done really well with their prepping the car, and I think just setting up the car.
I mean, just a few more minutes now coming till we get going yet again for Quali 3. It's going to be an interesting session with everyone on the softs. The Red Bulls not looking like the favourites on the softs though in this coming session. The Mercedes are certainly the fastest looking drivers on the set of softs. Daniel Ricciardo is sitting in his car. I'm sure he'll be getting out very soon, but been a very good first session for him. Sounding happy on the radio, saying we'll keep building, but I mean, yeah, that's been a very good constructive first qualifying session for him back in Formula 1. Outperforming his teammate would have been the first goal, and he has checked that off of the checklist. Next is to get some points. Not long left until we get going yet again for Quali 3. This will have all of the drivers out on a set of softs. We see Carlos Sainz now getting out of his car. Very disappointing for him to be eliminated in qualifying 2. He'll certainly be quite disappointed in himself. Just not getting into qualifying 3, qualifying down in P11.
Indeed. And Lando Norris, I think, as James says, could potentially take pole here. I mean, he's been very quick in all weekend and currently sits very firmly in first position after that Q2. So in Q3 now on the soft tires, which weren't looking brilliant earlier, if we must be honest, could he go and take pole?
Well, I mean, he's looking very competitive out there, so it could be a possibility. We'll see what happens in the session if he is able to compete with the Mercedes and possibly Red Bull. The Mercedes are looking quite rapid out there on the set of softs. We didn't see a true representation, though, from McLaren. We only saw their medium runs, so they could still be very, very competitive on a set of softs.
Yeah, I mean, it's really all to race for in this last session, because we can't even really say there's been a particularly dominant car. I still think Max Verstappen is going to be right up there, of course. I think first or second. But it's been so interesting to see this session play out. I've really loved the format, the hard to medium to soft tire thing, because you don't actually have an idea, because you know what the hard tire runs are, but the medium tire runs can be completely different. I mean, they could result in completely different sort of racing. I mean, the Alpines looked relatively good in the hard tire, and then both of them out in Q2 on the medium tire. So, I mean, it just leaves that question mark over everybody with regards to what's going to happen.
Yes, it really does leave a bit of a question mark over everybody, because it could still cause quite a shake-up in Quali 3, as we said. We were looking forward to this new qualifying style being trialed out here, and it certainly brought us a lot of entertainment this weekend. So I'm glad they have trialed it out. Maybe they should bring it to more Grand Prix throughout the year.
I mean, if they trial it in the middle of it, can they not just implement it for the rest of the year?
I think they could.
I'm
sure they could.
I really like it. I don't know about everybody else in the comments, but I really like this format. It just makes it so interesting, and it's so great to have both Alfa Romeos as well in Q3. Let's just hope that they've got good race pace. We also see Sergio Perez is out there nice and early yet again, and a whole 2 minutes until Q3 starts, and he's already out there on those soft tyres. I think it's because these soft tyres do heat up very, very quickly, so I don't think he has to worry too much about keeping them warm. One out lap on the soft tyres should be able to get them up to the temperature that he wants them to. So he can make his way to the end of the grid. Just 1 minute and 25 seconds to go. And yeah, just keep liking the video, guys, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. This is Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. You're joining me, Mark, and Reese, of course, for this content. And we're very, very glad to have all of you here chatting amongst ourselves in the comments. And keep the discussions going. We love having some good discussions. Please don't spam the chat, but be sure to participate in it with some meaningful conversation.
A lot of chat about contracts at the moment going on in the comment section. Certainly a very big talking point at the moment. I am putting together a video about the current silly season that is taking place. I will hopefully get that done before the summer break. It will be a very interesting video about just a lot of suspected driver moves that are possibly coming. We do have Fernando Alonso also waiting behind Sergio Perez in the pits at the moment. 38 seconds left to go until we get the green light.
Yeah, and a lot of people joining and showing their support for many, many people. Lots of Lando Norris fans, Max fans, and a couple of Hamilton fans. Somebody they're saying, South Africa loves you. Well, we very much appreciate it. Yeah, and a whole lot of people joining us from all over the world. Absolutely love it. And also, I'd just like to let you guys know, if you guys are looking for a way to watch Formula One for free and legally, do be sure to go and check the description of the video. You can go and use our partners Bitdefender and ExpressVPN, and you can go and do exactly that. And there's a little instructions video on the channel as well. Go check that out. You guys can watch all of this alongside us, so be sure to go and check that out. And we do have the start of Q3 now, and Sergio Perez is the only car out on track. Everybody else still in the pits. Just 12 minutes long this session is.
Teo just asking what my personal channel is. I don't have a personal channel yet, but that edited video will be going up on the Forever Motorsports channel. So if you want to see some more edited videos, please do go and check out our Forever Motorsports channel, which is where we do some more of those extra videos for you guys. As well as we do have a podcast that we film on Mondays that we upload, and we do a preview on a Thursday before a race weekend as well. We have a lot of the cars now leaving the pits. 11 left of this session, so not too long to get going and getting your lap time in. So they will certainly be wanting to get out quite quickly and getting a banker lap in.
Yeah, so just 11 minutes left of the session. Sergio Perez is going to be the first one that we get to watch going round. Everybody is out of the pits except for Lewis Hamilton, who is just lagging a little bit behind. And I'm very, very intrigued to see what sort of times we're going to see from all the drivers here. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, I think those two are going to be challenging each other for that pole position, and with an outside chance, I think Lewis Hamilton. But yeah, we'll see. And maybe Leclerc manages to improve as well. As now Hamilton has entered the track, so all 10 drivers currently out on the grid. Just to run you through those 10 drivers. Oh, sorry, actually, having said that, let me not do that, because Sergio Perez is about to start his hot lap now. Reese, let's talk us through it.
DRS is now wide open. He comes across the line to start this lap, approaching turn 1. It's a tricky braking section. You don't really hit the apex there because you like to get a nice wide line. Saying that though, Sergio Perez does like to hit the apex, but he does get a big snap of understeer through there, fighting at the wheel. Now coming through turn 3, braking there, getting close to the apex through there as well. Back on the power through turn 4, looking still very neat and tidy, coming towards the first timing sector marker. He is up on that sector 27.9. I think we have seen Foster through there, but let's see what he can do throughout the rest of this lap on the set of softs. Coming through turn 6 and 7, the tricky chicane where we saw Lance Stroll just going over the curbs a bit earlier on, ruining his fast lap. Now through turn 9 and turn 10, getting close to that second timing marker. Let's see what he can do through the second sector. Will he be fast enough to fight it out for that top position? 55.3 through the second sector. Now the final sector is where it all counts. Passing his teammate, getting into that braking zone through turn 13. Now approaching the final corner on the track, turn 14. Someone has already stolen his first fastest sector though. That is Lando Norris.
I think it's actually Charles Leclerc. Or maybe Lando Norris started first and then Charles Leclerc. But yes, Perez puts the first fastest lap in at 1:17.1. So it's not good. It's certainly not going to be the fastest time. I'm sure we're going to see 1:16s and lower 1:16s as well. So let's follow Lando Norris, who's currently got Sector 1 purple. But as I say, I think
Sector 2 purple as well. Lando Norris flying out there on track. Someone has stolen his fastest first sector, though. That is Charles Leclerc. Let's see what Leclerc can do throughout the rest of his lap as well. Lando Norris now coming through that final sector, approaching turn 14, looking very neat and tidy through there, hitting that apex ever so perfectly. DRS now wide open, comes across the line and puts himself comfortably into the first 1:16 of the race weekend. 1:16.9 for Lando Norris in the McLaren. Leclerc slightly down in the middle sector, but
Alonso, sorry, I just want to say Alonso, a
pass.
1:17.0. He moves up into second position. Max Verstappen, as you say, has got a purple first sector, but my word, great lap there from Fernando Alonso.
We have hit 3,000 viewers now. Thank you very much for joining us. Please do like the video and subscribe. Max Verstappen ever so slightly up in the middle sector. What will he be able to do in that final sector? Will he be able to fight with Lando Norris for pole? He is coming through turn 13 now, approaching turn 14. Let's see what he can do through this final corner. Will he be able to hold on to that position from Lando Norris?
Oh, sorry, we're just losing Reese a little bit there, and Max Verstappen does cross the line in a 1:16.6. Great lap there from Max Verstappen at 1:16.6. And now here comes Hamilton as he's coming across the line, and also a 1:16.7. So right behind Max Verstappen. A great lap from him there. Reese, your thoughts about those two laps?
Yes, very, very good from those two drivers. Hamilton putting in a brilliant lap at the end there as well. Lando Norris didn't have a great final sector, so it's possibly still a little bit of time for him to find out there on track.
Yeah, and there's certainly a bit of time to find. So 7 minutes left of the session, so we've got 5 minutes of the session. Helmut Marko looking very unfazed there in the Red Bull pit. But Q3 is certainly looking very, very interesting with Max Verstappen, Hamilton, Norris, Alonso, Perez and Leclerc all being separated by very much not a lot of time. Max Verstappen's quite clearly in the lead, but these times are going to drop quite quickly towards the end of the session, so should hopefully be very, very good.
Yes, I think we still have a bit of a shake-up to come. Maybe we could have a first, for a while, a first non-Verstappen pole. That would be quite exciting to have someone else on pole. But I mean, it also bodes well for the race tomorrow. And a lot of teams certainly looking to be quite competitive on not only the soft tyres. So we could have a bit of a shake-up in the race as well with some race pace. Some drivers also looking very good on long runs throughout the race weekend.
So we've got 3,200 people watching. Thank you guys so much for joining. We've got 6 minutes left of the session. Lewis Hamilton is heading on out. He's the only car making his way out. Oh no, sorry, he's heading on back in. I'll take it all back. So everybody's in the pits. So not much action happening right now. So whilst we do have you guys here, we've got 5 minutes and 50 seconds left. Of course, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, guys. Seriously, if you are new, we do so much in this channel. We have, as we said earlier, a podcast every Monday where we'll be reviewing the last week that happened in Formula One. So of course, we'll review the sessions that have happened over the weekend, and otherwise also we do preview shows, we do information shows. Go check out our other channel, of course, the dedicated Formula One channel for our company. That is Forever Motorsports. It's one of our partner channels, so be sure to go and check that out as well, and go subscribe to all of those to get the best news and information about Formula One. Everybody's just getting their cars ready with brand new soft tires and everything, and getting all the setups all countries right. Of course, they can't change too much with Parc Ferme, but let's see what can happen right near the end. Do you think, Reese, that Max Verstappen's time will be beaten?
I think it certainly will be beaten. I think he'll have to improve on his time if he wants to hold on to that pole position for the race. We will have to see if he's able to do that. Let's see what happens. With 5 minutes left to go of the session, not a lot of time left for drivers to be able to improve on their lap times. They should be doing a quick turnaround, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and people just discussing the format right now in the comments. A lot of people asking in the formats whether or not it's right, and people having a big argument about whether or not it is. Some people saying they don't like the format, some people saying they love the format. And I think me and Reese both feel that we like the format more than we don't. I think the reason why people don't enjoy the format is maybe because we are losing some drivers that we wouldn't normally lose, because they weren't necessarily as quick on the hard tires. They probably would be compared to everybody else on the soft tires. So I don't back that argument, because quite frankly, if you're not quick enough on the hards, you don't necessarily deserve to show how quick your pace is on the softs.
Well, I mean, It certainly is very difficult to perform on those hards. They're not a qualifying tire at all, but it just shows you who the true qualifiers are. If you're able to nail every sector on a set of hards, then you should be able to do it on a set of softs, and vice versa. I mean, yeah, it just makes you use your talents a little bit more, as we do see a bunch of drivers getting out on track at the moment. We have Hulkenberg, Perez, and Norris all on out laps.
Yeah, so a whole lot of drivers making their way out now.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. All these drivers making their way out. Just 3.5 minutes left here. I think they might well have fuel enough for 2 push laps, one imagines, Reese, as everyone's leaving with just about 3 minutes. So that's enough time to have a push lap followed by a I suppose a second push lap. So it's not a lot of time for these drivers, so it's going to get right towards the nitty-gritty end of Q3, and it really is all to race for. I still think I'm going to stick with my prediction. Max Verstappen first, Lando Norris second, and Charles Leclerc 3. Let's see if that actually does play out. I think, Reese, you said the same thing, except I think you had Hamilton in third, didn't you?
No, I had Alonso in third.
Alonso. Well, still, that's how we know. It's just we don't know. And even Max Verstappen, I don't think at this point is guaranteed pole position, because these times,
I think he's going to have to fight for it if he really wants to get it. He's going very slow in his out lap, so really looking after those brand new softs. He's going to want to have as much grip in them as possible, and yeah, going to be. It's not given to him this qualifying session. The other teams are a lot closer. It's what we want to see. We don't want to see qualifying being given to the Red Bulls every time. We want to see them fighting for it. And yeah, I'm glad to see a lot of support for this new qualifying format. I'm glad to see that there's some people who don't like it as well. It's great to see different opinions. And please do give us your opinions in the comment section. We have ND, who gave us his qualifying predictions. First Hamilton, second Verstappen, and third Norris, just for an entertaining start tomorrow, he says. Lando Norris also ramping up for a hot lap at the moment.
Yeah, and also I think interesting to note, Max Verstappen currently sits on pole, but of course I think that's going to be beaten. Max Verstappen's only ever once got pole at this track. The last 5 has actually gone majority to Mercedes. Last year, George Russell managed to get pole here, and of course he got knocked out in Q2, and I think maybe that's also why Toto Wolff was so angry, because George Russell did very well here last season and not so well today. So yeah, let's see if Hamilton can try and represent the Mercedes brand and get himself onto pole. But meanwhile, we're following Ferrari, who of course only got Leclerc in this session due to Sainz getting out in Q2. Sorry, I meant Russell's out in Q3 even. Leclerc starting his fast lap now. Can he beat Max Verstappen's time, Reese?
DRS open now as he gets on that curb a little bit, approaching turn 3. Let's see what he can do throughout this lap. Looking neat and tidy through there. Will he be able to keep this momentum up though throughout the rest of this lap? Coming up the hill now towards turn 4, a very tricky left-hander. 0.081 down on Verstappen in the first sector. He certainly improved quite a lot. This should put him in contention.
Oof, my word. So close to track limits. I think he's fine. I think it just stays in. But it's going to be very close.
There. Wait to see what the stewards say. Coming through the middle sector now through turn 9 and 10. Verstappen on another hot lap, not faster in the first sector. He may just be doing a... I don't know. Not finding pace at all.
Yeah, Leclerc's gone a little bit slower in sector 2 as well, but than Verstappen's time, but only just, so he still has the ability to go into first position. Verstappen has gone, I just see that though.
Verstappen is 0.1 seconds up in the middle sector.
Leclerc finishing up his lap. Sorry, Reese, let's just see what Leclerc can do. Coming in with a 1:16 point. No, really not a great lap actually, a 1:16.9, so only into 4th position. I think Alonso can beat that, quite frankly. Let's see, Alonso's going quicker in all of his sectors as well. He's going very quickly.
Comes across the line. He does not improve on his lap time.
Lando Norris is up on
in the middle sector. Lando Norris could take pole from Max Verstappen.
Watch Alonso here.
Now coming across the line. His DRS open, comes across the line, goes into 4th. Lando Norris coming through the final sector now. What will he be able to do? Coming through turn 14, Piastri moves himself up into 4th.
Great lap from Piastri. Here comes Lando Norris.
His DRS. Where does he go? He goes only into 2nd. So slightly behind Verstappen. This is going to be a very exciting race tomorrow. Hamilton, though, flying through the sector at the moment. In the middle sector.
Here comes Hamilton. As the famous commentary was.
Going to be playing for it today. He's certainly looking like having a lot of pace, a little bit of oversteer through turn.
Sorry, just losing Reese a little bit there, and here he comes across the last couple of corners. Let's see, will he beat Max Verstappen's time? He goes quickest. Lewis Hamilton is on pole. He is on pole in Hungary, so he does keep it up. Max Verstappen once again does not get pole here in Hungary. Sorry to cut you off there, only by 0.003 seconds. Reese, unbelievable.
Brilliant from Lewis Hamilton to take pole by 0.003 seconds. That is less than a blink of an eye, really. That is absolutely phenomenal for Lewis Hamilton. The first pole position that he has had in a very long time. Very, very exciting for Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. One driver taking pole position, another driver eliminated in Quali 1. That is certainly a bit of a polarizing day for the Mercedes, but I'm sure they will be very happy with the pace of their number one driver, Lewis Hamilton.
And
Hamilton on the radio.
Yeah, sorry. And just look at McLaren as well. Third and fourth. Great drives there from Lando Norris and Piastri into the 116s. And also, look at Guan Yu Zhou in fifth, ahead of Charles Leclerc, and Bottas also in seventh. An unbelievable day for the Alfa Romeos and for McLaren. Just a fantastic qualifying session. I've absolutely loved this format, and it's really, really fantastic to have seen how everyone's driven today. And just everyone in the comments is also just as surprised as we are. What a great qualifying session we had there.
Certainly was a very, very exciting qualifying session there. A couple of Hamilton fans there in the grandstands looking very excited. Max Verstappen, though, number one, is in P2. Not something we see very often, is him being out-qualified. I wonder if they just need to get to the bottom of these upgrades still a little bit, but still with some great pace out there. Only 0.003 behind Lewis Hamilton's fastest time. I mean, this could be a very exciting race for us tomorrow. Please do be sure to join us on our stream. We will be starting quite early and with a brilliant build-up package for you guys. So please do be sure to tune in to our stream tomorrow afternoon.
Indeed. And we're going to cut straight across to our studio now to review the qualifying session that has just ensued right in front of us. So, oh, there we go. There's the music and everything. I'll tell you, it's fantastic. Wait for the music to go there. Great session there that we just had there, Reese. Welcome to Forever Motorsports on Forever Sports. You're joined by me, Mark, and by Reese as well for the Hungary qualifying review. And yeah, what a fantastic qualifying we had. The biggest news of all, Lewis Hamilton manages to beat Max Verstappen to the line and finishes on pole. And he's celebrating right now in front of the crowd as well. A fantastic race there. Well, a fantastic lap rather from Lewis Hamilton. He finishes in first, Max Verstappen in second. Notably as well, the two McLarens of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri in third and fourth. Guan Yu Zhou in the Alfa Romeo, who had a fantastic session as well. In fifth, Charles Leclerc, sixth. Not great for him. Valtteri Bottas, the other Alfa Romeo, seventh. Alonso in eighth. Sergio Perez also, we didn't really talk about him earlier, but only finishing in ninth in that session. And Nico Hülkenberg rounding off our top 10. So a very, very big spread. And lots of different drivers across the whole lot. Perez starting very low down. So he can't really help out his teammate. It's unbelievable, Reese.
Yes, I mean, wow. I'm so shocked to have Hamilton on pole yet again. It's great to have him on pole. It's, as I said, we don't want to see the Red Bulls taking pole every single race weekend. It's nice to have another team taking it, especially great to have Lewis Hamilton once again on pole. He does quite like this Hungary track. And I mean, Max Verstappen will have a little bit of work to do tomorrow, but I'm sure they'll still have some great race pace there. But hopefully it'll be a good race with some battling between the Mercedes and the Red Bulls. And don't forget, those McLarens are also showing some brilliant race pace. And just in general, they've got some good pace out there, starting in P3 and P4.
And I'll take my hat off to somebody in the comments during our stream as well, because he went and said the exact front three. He went and said Hamilton first, Verstappen second, and Lando Norris in third, just for, as he said, an interesting start tomorrow. But it is going to be a very interesting start, because we do know in the past couple of race weekends, Max Verstappen gets away a little bit slower than the Mercedes and the McLaren. So could Lando Norris take Verstappen into the opening corner? Could there be a little bit of a collision between the two? It's going to be a very, very interesting first corner. But let's just go through that session there. So we had qualifying one, only the hard tyre allowed. And the big name that we lost there was the other Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton's teammate, George Russell, who got pole last year, not this time, finished all the way down in 18th position. I mean, terrible day for George Russell.
Sorry, just listening to Lando Norris, who's not very happy with his current position. He was expecting to get a little bit higher up there, but still nonetheless. But going back to Quali 1, as you were talking about, I mean, it was a bit of a shocker to have lost George Russell. I mean, I certainly didn't expect to have that, but we've lost him and his teammates gotten on pole. That's going to put a bit of pressure onto him for sure.
Yeah, so George Russell's got lots and lots of work to do. So the other drivers we lost in that Q1 session was Logan Sargent, Kevin Magnussen, George Russell, of course, Yuki Tsunoda, and Alex Albon. So those were our bottom 5 drivers that we lost in the first session. Of course, the only real surprise there, George Russell. And then going into Q2, great to see Daniel Ricciardo, of course, his first weekend back. He managed to get into Q2, more to the point. And he didn't manage to get out of it, though. But I'll tell you, another driver that didn't manage to get out of it in the medium session was Carlos Sainz. Now, what happened there?
Yes, I don't know what happened to Carlos. I mean, he's shown some great pace throughout the last few race weekends. And I mean, he's just been off the pace this weekend to his teammate. Disappointing to see that he wasn't able to make it into Quali 3, but nonetheless, it gave us a few more opportunities to see some other drivers fighting out there. Great to see, though, another driver we haven't spoken about just yet is Danny Ricciardo, Mark.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's Daniel Ricciardo managed to make it into Q2. So the 5 drivers we lost in Q2 were Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll. It's really not a great day for Lance Stroll, but I suppose Aston Martin also didn't do particularly well. But as I say, Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon, and Carlos Sainz were the 5 drivers we lost in Q2. So it was a very close session, right down to the wire, and Sainz unfortunately was knocked out by his teammate, actually. In fact, Charles Leclerc managed to get ahead of him and pushed him into the relegation zone there. So Charles Leclerc managed to get into the last session, but not a great Q3 for him either. He's finished behind an Alfa Romeo of all teams in 6th position. So I mean, Guan Yu Zhou in 5th. And Alfa Romeo, just how unbelievable were they? Guan Yu Zhou, don't forget, he also topped the first session.
Yes, I mean, it's a lot of pace that I wasn't expecting from the Alfa Romeos. They've been quite far off the pace this season, but they've managed to find a lot of pace between. Well, I think in Silverstone they started ramping up the pace a bit, but at this circuit they certainly seem to be working very well. Whether that translates into race pace tomorrow, we'll have to wait and see. So they certainly still have a lot of qualifying pace. It may just be because it's a high downforce circuit. John Webster saying that Red Bull are certainly not going to be very happy, but I think they'll be all right with where they are. I think they have a lot of work to do still to get to the best setup for their new updates. It's still all right. I think they'll have some good race pace tomorrow.
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting as James goes and says in the comments whilst we're on this just review of the qualifying. He's just going to say Max Verstappen is struggling with the balance of the car. That's what he's saying. He says, so have these upgrades really worked? Because it's been a bit of a disaster session for them, because Red Bull not finishing on pole is a disaster already, and Perez only finishing in 9th, and nothing went wrong for him. It was just down to pace. So Sergio Perez in 9th, Max Verstappen in 2nd. It's not really that good for Red Bull considering the rest of their season.
Well, I mean, they've got some in hands. They may as well trial this new setup. If it doesn't work, they can always go back to an older spec. There's nothing hurting them in that regard. It didn't cost them too much money or too many wind tunnel testing points, because essentially they redesigned their radiators, which gets some free wind tunnel testing, and that certainly benefited them this race weekend.
So, based off of the fact that we've got Lewis Hamilton in 1st, Max Verstappen 2nd, Norris and Piastri in 3rd and 4th, Zhou in 5th, Charles Leclerc in 6th, Valtteri Bottas 7th, Alonso in 8th, Perez in 9th, and Hulkenberg in 10th. Who do we reckon wins Hungary Grand Prix 2023? Go!
Oh, gosh. Why do you always put me under so much pressure here? It's difficult. I think it's going to be a close race tomorrow. Hopefully the Red Bulls don't run away with it with these new upgrades. Yeah, it's going to be close. I think the McLarens may have some good race pace, though.
I'm
going to say Lando Norris.
Yeah, I was exactly as you're going. I think I'm actually going to back McLaren in this scenario, because I do think Hamilton's a great racing driver, but I do think he's taken that car a little bit further than where it necessarily is, whereas those McLarens have certainly shown that they know what they're doing at the circuit, and for all that Norris played it down, they're looking very primed and ready for tomorrow's race. I could be completely wrong, but I reckon what happens tomorrow is Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri get a fantastic start, and they probably both of them start challenging Max Verstappen. I think Norris probably takes Max Verstappen into turn 1. Piastri maybe fights him for the rest of the first lap, and otherwise Hamilton will probably also lead it out, and I think Norris will be hot on his heels. I think Verstappen's going to struggle tomorrow a little bit in terms of trying to get past them, but he'll probably still finish right up there. But I think I'm probably going to back Lando Norris. as you say.
Either way, it gives us a good race tomorrow. So please do be sure to tune in for that. It's going to be very, very exciting.
Indeed, guys, thank you so much for watching Forever Motorsports and for all of our videos today. Of course, we're going to continue on, and you guys are going to join us for our live stream tomorrow, or depending on when you're watching this, for the Hungarian Grand Prix 2023. It's sure going to be an incredible race, and we are all of us so excited. Be sure to tune in and join me and Reese tomorrow, or as we said, depending on when you're watching it, maybe today, for the Hungary Grand Prix, and join us on the channel. Guys, thank you so much for watching. From me and Reese, we have been Forever Motorsports. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. We'll see you. Cheerio. Let's go transition. Cheerio.